tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore. When the world seems to shine like you've had too much wine, that's amore.
Back and better than ever on this Tuesday morning, the 27th of July, 2021. Happy to be back with you atop the Murchison building overlooking Battleship, North Carolina. You're tuned in to the Big Talker, 106.7 FM. Our call-in number is 910-299-7535 if you'd like to be a part of the program here until 10 o'clock. Of course, you can comment in real time through the video portion of our show, which you can find on our social media platforms through Facebook, Twitter, and by subscribing to our YouTube channel. No doubt, here in the end of July, this morning, walking out of the front door, by far the most humid morning that we have seen all summer long. We're around 80 degrees right now as we get your day underway here across the Cape Fear region and throughout southeastern North Carolina. In 1 hour from now, we will hear from one of the Republican candidates running for the U.S. Senate next year in former Charlotte Mayor and North Carolina Governor Pat McCrory will be with us in 1 hour from now after securing that conversation with his staff last night. And from what we can gather, one of the first of the many news talk radio programs in this region and all across the state that will be talking with Governor McCrory for the first and I'm assured many times in the next several months leading up to the February primary as things start to heat up. If you've been tuned into this station or others like it here in this area, from the mountains to the coast, you've noticed that one of his opponents, of course, in the Republican primary has already spent some dollars through an ad buy that you're hearing again on this station, and you'll hear during our first time out this morning in Congressman Ted Budd. Back on Friday, of course. Was it Friday? Yes, it was, in fact, Friday. We had Representative Mark Walker also in studio. Those are the three leading candidates in this GOP primary, with Pat McCrory, of course, bringing the name recognition, his time as the mayor of our state's largest city, Republican governor just a little while ago, and brings a number of different achievements that he'll be touting, I'm sure, in the next hour and throughout the campaign. There are some questions I'm positive that many who lean a little further on the political spectrum to the right have on the former governor, and we'll go through that with him when he joins the program in about 1 hour from now. Working, of course, diligently as always to make sure all candidates and elected officials have an opportunity to speak to you through this platform. Still awaiting from a word from the camp of Congressman Ted Budd, but I'm almost positive that he'll be on the show sooner rather than later. But looking forward to the conversation with the former North Carolina governor, now retired, semi-retired radio talk show host in Pat McCrory, and he will have a lot to tout. There's no doubt from his time as governor, helping get North Carolina and its comeback moving in the right direction. Wasn't too long ago, if you go in the grand scheme of things, back to, say, 2008, 2009, leading into 2010, coming out of the Great Recession. North Carolina, financially, sort of in dire straits. The state was kind of stagnant and was looking for direction. Well, North Carolina voters put in the first Republican majority within the North Carolina General Assembly in over a century, in addition to hiring a new governor with the exit of Bev Perdue. And the rest, as they say, is history. And time again, for the last several years, the Tar Heel State has been at or near the top of all the different surveys and ratings and indexes that are released by various publications when it comes to places to do business, places to live, work, and play. North Carolina thriving while other states are dying. And that's just a fact of the matter. Governor McCrory, during his term as our chief executive in the state of North Carolina, helped oversee the start of that comeback. There's no question about it. Again, those who lean a little further to the right feel that, well, he may have been a little squirmy on some of the issues, wasn't willing necessarily to push back in the fight against political opponents surrounding HB2. Why was this one of those things where he felt he stuck his flag in the ground and then kind of ventured away as public sentiment started to turn on the governor and those pushing the legislation that, well, got a lot of attention nationally when it was at the top of the agenda. Those same folks who feel he was a little squirmy on HB2 may also feel a little disenfranchised after helping getting him elected to governor. I know within our area, some were disappointed that he didn't necessarily involve more of the Tea Party type of folks, a part of his administration, or then to help rebuild the North Carolina Republican Party. It was more of the Republican establishment who were able to gain notoriety statewide during his time as governor. And some of the people who feel like they helped take him over the top were left in the dust. Now, that's the viewpoint of some here in our region of North Carolina. Then you look out towards Charlotte, where he's from. There were some other things that came down the pipeline that ruffled some feathers out in his neck of the woods with a toll road outside of Charlotte, which in some cases has to be the reason why the former governor decided to get into the realm of news talk radio, serving as a radio talk show host on the flagship AM station out in Charlotte known as WBT. Kept his name in the mix before putting his name in the hat for the U.S. Senate seat that will be vacated when Richard Burr retires, moving into the midterms of November of 2022. So really looking forward to that conversation with the former governor of North Carolina, Pat McCrory, who will join us in about 40 or so minutes from right now. Your calls at 910-299-7535, of course. Details from across the area that you may have missed from yesterday. Well, Molson Coors has released a statement in support and reiterated their work with True Colors Brewing, which garnered a lot of attention and still in the spotlight following the double homicide that occurred at the COO's house in the Middle Sound area of New Hanover County over the weekend. And as we stated yesterday, we haven't really strayed away from the thoughts that we brought to you concerning this news from over the weekend. Getting involved with bad actors, as well-intended as you may be, and as some who are looking maybe to find a different route away from a life of crime and gang activity. It's a very dirty business, and if you're going to get involved, these sorts of things are going to happen. And there should be, of course, two sides to this in that the folks who say we need to unify, we need to come together as a community and support these sorts of endeavors. Okay, I see your point of view until something like this plays out, and you can see why, particularly with people that have families, loved ones, that maybe are involved in other sorts of endeavors that don't involve validated gang members who do not have to necessarily give up their stripes, so to speak, that may create a little uneasiness within the general population. This not being the first shooting that occurred at a home involving the owners of the True Colors Brewing Company. Not to say these folks haven't worked their tail off, haven't done their best to try and keep people employed and show them that there are different ways to be sustainable in society and to work towards bettering yourself and ultimately the people you love and are aligned with. But again, a very dirty business, the gang culture. Once you're in, you're in. Even if you want to get out, they pull you back in one way or the other. And as Mark Benson mentioned yesterday, kind of the pushback that they gave through their typed out response and how they're just working to save and have saved countless lives during their efforts as a for-profit company that just align themselves with one of the biggest beer companies and corporations in America. I was a little perturbed by some of the things I read in that statement as Mark allotted to during his appearance during our program yesterday. Do you have anything to qualify some of those statements that you've been saving countless amounts of lives in our area by running a for-profit business that employs validated gang members? So forgive me if I'm not necessarily all on board when these sorts of things happen now just down the street from where you live. And this not being the first time, of course. There's been an incident involving a shooting at a home that is owned by those involved with this company here that has received a lot of praise over the last few years for their efforts. So Molson Coors has reiterated their support for the True Colors mission. At this time, there's no new information on the investigation or the third person shot as part of the double homicide. Details are still limited as to what played out the other night on Middle Sound. The murderer remains at large. And again, the identity and the status of the other female who was shot is still unknown at this time. The other news locally, of course, focused on the upcoming school year for the traditional public schools. Pender County schools have come out and said that masks will be optional for the upcoming school year. Brunswick County schools are looking to gauge feedback from parents about the use of masks inside school buildings ahead of the start of the school year. And they say the results of this survey that has been sent out will be taken into consideration by school board members when they make a decision about COVID protocols for the upcoming school year. Now, Brunswick County schools have released a very detailed description as far as how they see the school year playing out in regards to quarantine guidelines and other things involving COVID and the upcoming academic year. At this point, families are asked to submit one survey per household. An email address is required to complete the survey for Brunswick County schools. And we'll go down the list as far as quarantine guidelines are concerned. Now, I guess my question would be for schools that ultimately decide that masks will be mandated, because there will be a few across North Carolina as these decisions are made over the next couple of days and weeks. If you're going to mandate masks and a child chooses not to wear one, will there be additional options for those kids to seek their education, say, virtually, as we had it last year? Providing that option to children who don't feel comfortable keeping the face covering on for 8 hours a day. We'll see how that plays out as these decisions are made. Right now, the governor's staff has stated that the governor is not at this point considering reinstating the mask mandate for indoor buildings like we've seen elsewhere across the country. That's the latest on COVID. Looking forward to talking with Governor McCrory here in the second hour, along with attorney Thom Goolsby. Tom's been on fire, lighting up my phone over the last couple of days on some guidance that hasn't necessarily caught the attention of our national news outlets as far as COVID testing is concerned. And also beginning to hear more and more about warning signs that have been presented over the years surrounding the research that had been going on inside the Wuhan Institute of Virology prior to the COVID breakout. In fact, a story I caught yesterday, dated back to 2015. Intelligence officials for the nation of France warned the U.S. State Department that China was cutting back on agreed collaboration at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. And they claim that the U.S. federal government should have stopped funding research in Wuhan back in 2015 as China reduced its cooperation with other nations in building and operating its lab. And we'll also get into the ongoing debate surrounding the COVID vaccines. Do have a few questions that maybe you can help answer when it comes to vaccination hesitancy, particularly from pharmaceutical companies that have recently agreed to pay out billions upon billions of dollars related to the opioid pandemic, related to various chemicals found in baby powder, for instance, in which they have paid out billions. Only, of course, on the other side, to be raking in billions by distributing the COVID vaccination around the world. They are just questions which, for those who remain hesitant or on the fence, feel that it's relevant enough for them to just stay on the sidelines for maybe a little bit longer. Despite the mounting pressure that many people are forcing upon these people, given, through my estimation, once again, providing very relevant questions to the table and bringing them to the table without any sort of answers. Attorney Thom Goolsby going to dig into that for us when he joins us in that 8 o'clock block, as he does every Tuesday morning here on the Big Talker FM. We're 24 minutes past. If you'd like to call in, of course, you know the number, 910-299-7535. Folks, we all know ongoing road construction and traffic can weigh heavy on your vehicle. Since 2006, O'Leary's Automotive Repair has provided comprehensive repair services at affordable prices to get you back on the road in no time. Their ASE-certified technicians will help you find a cost-effective repair and maintenance alternatives. O'Leary's has multiple locations in the area in Hampstead, Leland, the Myrtle Grove area, Ogden, and Wrightsboro. O'Leary's Automotive Repair, a trusted, locally owned business since 2006.
Hey guys, what if I told you that your wedding day could be the happiest day of your life, even if it rained?
You sound like the weatherman.
Better, Jordan. I'm a jeweler with the most amazing guarantee in the diamond business. If you buy your diamond engagement ring from us at Perry's Emporium and it rains on your wedding day, your ring is absolutely free.
It's the Perry's Emporium legendary rainy day diamond guarantee.
No other jeweler in eastern North Carolina has a larger selection of loose diamonds, diamond engagement rings, and wedding bands than Perry's Emporium, all at the guaranteed lowest price. Perry's Emporium in beautiful Barclay Commons behind Henry's and on the web at perrysemporium.com.
We'll see you when you get here.
Hey everyone, Ben Hawkins here with Cross Country Mortgage. Rates are still at historic lows, and there has never been a better time to purchase your dream home or refinance your existing. With over 300 loan products including conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, renovation, and jumbo, we are certain we have the right loan product for you and your family. Call me today to be pre-qualified to make the offer on your next dream home. 910-352-3373 or visit my website at lendwithben.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. Gabe Frank of the Frank Institute, and I wanted to tell you about our IV vitamin, infusion, and hydration therapies. These IVs are the most effective treatment for vitamin and nutrition deficiencies available, and with our wide range of offering, your treatment can be tailored to your specific needs. Whether you struggle with hydration or nutritional deficiency, injury recovery, low energy, please feel free to check out our IV infusions today. Schedule an appointment at 910-679-8534 or check out all our treatment services at www.frankinstitute.com.
Attention patriots, listen in to hear President Trump explain why Ted Budd is the right choice for United States Senate.
There's somebody that I think is very special, somebody that I've worked with, always been with me. This man's a great politician, but more importantly, he's somebody that loves the state of North Carolina. He loves the country. But this gentleman is going to be your next senator. He's going to be somebody that you're going to be so proud of. He will fight like hell. He will fight like nobody fights. And a lot of you don't know him that well, but you're going to know him. Ted Budd.
I am giving him my complete and total endorsement. We're going to work with him. We're going to campaign with him. You can't pick people that have already lost 2 races. You can't pick people that have already lost 2 races and do not stand for our values. So I'm going with Congressman Ted Budd, complete and total endorsement.
I'm Ted Budd, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Ted Budd for Senate. See the video at tedbudd.com.
All right, as we move through this first hour of the show here on the Big Talker FM, in addition to former Governor Pat McCrory and Attorney Thom Goolsby, in the second hour of the program, just after 9 o'clock, we will hear from retired U.S. Marine Corps Major Scott Huesing. No, it's not Friday. Given our weekly salute to service as part of our Freedom Friday segment, 7:30 every Friday morning. But Major Huesing wants to call your attention to his efforts in raising awareness to those veterans struggling and who ultimately take their lives. He'll be riding his Harley-Davidson across the country 3,000 miles again this year for the organization known as Save the Brave to raise awareness for veteran suicide. Major Huesing is the best-selling author of Echo in Ramadi and will be on his Harley in the not-so-distant future, driving across country for the organization in which he serves now, known as Save the Brave. Looking forward to that conversation with Major Huesing just after 9 o'clock this morning. And yesterday we called some attention to the fact that with municipal elections on the horizon, over the past week, given the folks that I've gotten to know over the years in this world of politics locally, I've noticed pictures that have popped up through various gatherings and meetings that the GOP has held, or GOP-related organizations, to great turnout over the last couple of days. Thursday of last week, the New Hanover Republican Party had a great turnout at their monthly meeting. The Lower Cape Fear Republican Women's Club had a massive turnout with Senator Tillis in town, among some others. And it's part of the reason why I do not attend many of these political sort of events involving specific parties and people, even though I know many of them, and I've, in many cases, agree wholeheartedly with many of the ideals they hold true to them as far as where we should be moving when it comes to our country and its government. But there's a reason I don't hobnob with many of the mainstream political parties, particularly at these bigger gatherings, because, well, then I get on here and you kind of in a catch-22 where you're unable to or unwilling to say what I'm about to say. And we look at the municipal elections here in Wilmington, for instance, in a time where, people are kind of on the edge. The old guard up for re-election again, be it the mayor or some of the other names that, have been in town and guiding our city for the better part of, a couple of decades. People are hungry to see something new or hear from somebody new. And there are candidates who we have spoken with, whether it be Luke Waddell or Jonathan Ustaki, who have as good a chance as any in these off-year elections to gather, in some cases, 2, maybe even 3, maybe 4,000 votes you'll need to, win a seat on council. The question should be, where's the Republican Party? You got all these people turning out to the Cape Fear Country Club, and I'm not saying raising money, fundraising, and hearing from elected officials isn't, part of it. But when we talk about municipal races and, we're always hearing from Republicans that, the government closest to you is the one that impacts you most. Yet here we are, municipal election, and there are several races this upcoming November where candidates will run unopposed without any Republican counterpart on the ballot. In those races, and among those races, it includes the mayor, a mayoral race, where I would think you've got Mayor Sappho, and of course Harold, Harper, been here a while. Maybe an opportunity where you see, Democrats splitting that sort of vote gives you a lane to maybe sweep in and change the dynamic of a city for a term or who knows how long. We talk about the rise in crime and some of the changes that we've been seeing going on within the criminal justice system, law enforcement. A lot of questions that remain unanswered, particularly when it comes to the crime fighting side of things. Yet, we have a municipal election this upcoming year where there will be no one on the ballot contending for the New Hanover County Sheriff's seat or within the local district attorney's race. No Republican candidates. Number one priority of government, of course, is to keep people safe. Are we doing that in Wilmington right now? And you look at 3, you could say, the most significant positions in local government, elected positions in local government, and Republicans, for all the gathering and fundraising they're doing for the state, maybe national level, or all the bumping of the elbows they're doing with our elected officials in Washington, D.C. or in Raleigh. Here at the local level, the GOP here in New Hanover County, at least, remains unable to put, let alone viable candidates, any candidate on the ballot to challenge some of these seats that have gone unchallenged, throughout pretty much my entire life living in southeastern North Carolina, which dates almost now 20 years. Our call-in number is 910-299-7535. When we get back, up in Washington, D.C., all the news headlines today will be focused on the House Select Committee that will be looking back into the riot that took place at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. Some of the trolls out there on social media have wanted me once again to address January 6th, as we did on January 6th, the 7th, the 8th, and many days after. And with that being said, we're going to provide pretty much the same commentary verbatim that we delivered on January 6th, 7th, 8th, and the days that followed the riot up in Washington, D.C. We'll do that after the break here on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWY News. The congressional investigation into the January 6th Capitol Hill attack gets underway today. The first public testimony will come from 4 police officers who were on the scene that day. Republican leaders have called for a boycott of the proceedings, but at least 2 GOP lawmakers have agreed to take part. Now to the latest on COVID-19. North Carolina, like many other states across the country, is seeing an uptick in COVID-19 cases. On Saturday, the number of single-day new cases surpassed 2,000, the highest since April 30th. More than 1,400 new cases were reported yesterday. 60% of the adult population of North Carolina has had at least 1 dose of the vaccine, and 57% are fully vaccinated. The Department of Health and Human Services also updating its county alert map. In the Cape Fear region, Brunswick County slipping from the green tier to the yellow tier, indicating a significant impact by the virus. New Hanover County doing the best of the 5 local counties with only moderate impact. Pender seeing substantial impact. Marine Corps Air Station at Cherry Point broke ground on the first of several military construction projects yesterday. Hurricane Florence was responsible for $450 million in damage to the station and its outlying fields. Then President Donald Trump and Governor Roy Cooper visited in September of 2018. The new construction is part of the $149 million Hurricane Florence recovery package. The headquarters facility is estimated to be complete by spring of 2023. And if you've ever wanted to bring your dog to an Azalea Festival event, now is your chance. The Azalea Festival, in partnership with Paws for People, are hosting the 2nd annual Paws on Parade Saturday. It's from 5 to 9 p.m. at the Greenfield Lake Amphitheater. There will be live music, a puppy kissing booth, and professional dog portraits. For more on these stories, head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. We are going to see some changes as we go throughout the day today. A better chance for some scattered showers in store for us, although we are going to see a good deal of dry time. Temperatures will be jumping back up into the upper 80s, low 90s. Inland of the coast, coastal communities will top off in the middle 80s once again. But as we head into the overnight hours tonight, a few showers will stick around with mostly cloudy skies, and our temperatures do stay mild, dropping down to the middle 70s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by 2 Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to 2menandatruck.com. 2menandatruck.com.
No question, it does sometimes feel like we're living in a twilight zone in that there's a portion of our society and within elected government that feel we should be coddling the bad actors and the violent criminals out there. And only if we reform this or give them that or provide an opportunity here, will they see the light. And we all know in many instances, particularly when it comes to violent crime, and those repeat criminals that, well, you have to take a hard line or, well, all chaos will ensue. And I feel that's what many people across America are experiencing, particularly if you're living in, a major city or an urbanized area. All the numbers indicate it. And now starting to spill out into areas that are not used to, dodging bullets in broad daylight because of a drive-by shooting, the way we saw maybe in Washington, D.C. last week at one of the popular restaurants that many elected officials and journalists frequent. And as others were scouring for cover, the police chief of Washington, D.C. showed up and had some very direct comments as far as how we've let this get out of control. Now, I'll say, in part, well, the chief himself should also look in the mirror, given the fact that there are areas and sections within D.C. and many other cities like it that have been dealing with this sort of crime on an everyday basis for decades. But now, again, it spills into areas that relatively have no crime And now you see these law enforcement, these quote-unquote leaders, stepping up and, calling it out. Where are you? Or particularly maybe where's the media on a day-to-day basis, highlighting the stories that, happen pretty much on a daily basis within certain neighborhoods, and then time for time, you'll see something that plays out the way it did, say, in the Middle Sound Loop area this past weekend here in New Hanover County. But let's at least tune into the Metro Police Chief in Washington, D.C., who spoke, again, pretty directly last week following a shooting outside a very popular D.C. restaurant in part of the swanky areas of the district.
So I want us to make sure that we are reclaiming this community. And my hope is that as we do this, that this reverberates through our city, that this is what the response should look like. It should look like this, right? Because there are a lot of corners that I go to after a murder has occurred, and it's just me. It's just the officers. Who are the people that are closest to the pain, right? That's when we get folks' attention, right? When you closest to the pain, when you hear the gunshots in your community, that begs a different reaction versus it being someplace else and you just kind of happen to catch it on the news. This was real for some people, but it's been happening in communities all across our city. And I'm saying to you, enough is enough. I've been a police officer in this city for over 30 years. I've been born and raised right here in this city. Started my patrol career right here in this district. And the way that we're going and the things that we're trying to do, we want to help people. Yes, we should. But you cannot coddle violent criminals. You cannot. You cannot treat violent criminals who are out here making communities unsafe for you, for your loved ones, for me, for my loved ones. They might not want a job. They might not. They might not need services. What they may require is to be off of our streets because they're making it unsafe for us. And if that's what it requires, then that's what it requires. And we have to own that. We have to own it, because if not, we see more of this.
All right, so we'll see if the Metro Police Chief Robert Conti puts his money where his mouth is as far as putting the violent criminals where they belong, behind bars. You cannot coddle violent criminals. It's amazing to me that these remarks, of course, have to be applauded and then repeated, particularly to those in the back, those who feel that, many can be reformed, and that's not to say we should not have efforts to put forth reform and options on the table for people who choose a life of crime. What I'm saying is that there are efforts ongoing within our criminal justice system, within, the law enforcement ranks that want to take this approach to what? A community level. Well, let's, bring the ice cream truck in and, play some hoops with them and hopefully, they'll see the light. Well, the fact of the matter is there are violent criminals out there. We cannot coddle them, as the police chief said, and they need to be held accountable, and there needs to be consequences for their actions. Again, amazing that these remarks have to be applauded as we see, an uptick in violent crime across our country. So based on that commentary you heard from the police chief, I put it out on my social media page, and of course the trolls out there immediately take the bait, and they wanted me to address, now do January 6th, as one person put it. So the trolls want me to talk about January 6th, which I have no problem doing, as we did in the days after January 6th. And the commentary is not going to veer off from much what we said on January 6th. Now, we can get into further detail, but the broad conversation as, a House Select Committee is set to meet today on the riot at the Capitol. So those who want me to talk about January 6th, you're getting your wish this morning, and I hope you're tuned in, because my view on all of this hasn't changed very much since January 6th. As I said it then, and as I'll say it again today, January 6th was not a good look for the country. Since January 6th, we have seen hundreds of people arrested and charged, as they should be. They trespassed and they broke into the Capitol. It wasn't a good look. But to put it into perspective, out of the 100,000 people in Washington, D.C. that day protesting the election, listening to Donald Trump speak, and again, many of those folks have legitimate concerns about what played out during the course of the election, whether or not you think it was lost, won, or indifferent. The fact of the matter is, certain states took measures unconstitutionally to change laws that some believe flipped the election. And that is what kind of baffled me in the aftermath, and with all of the lawsuits that were being filed by the attorneys for Donald Trump, questioning this, that, challenging the results. No one was focused on the substance, the meat of what occurred. As we described with our friend Thom Goolsby on multiple occasions leading up in November here in North Carolina, the efforts by attorneys and others within appointed boards in our state working to change election law without legislative approval, which to me, if you're going to make a legal argument, that is where we would start from a fundamental standpoint. But those attorneys for President Trump went in a different direction for whatever reason. It wasn't a good look, January 6th. Out of the 100,000 people in Washington, D.C. protesting that day, less than 1% were involved in the mess at the Capitol. Less than 1,000 out of the 100,000 people were involved in that mess. Hundreds have been arrested since then. Some are still sitting in jail. And maybe that's a whole different story when we talk about some still sitting in jail, given the fact that in many other major cities across our country, we have murderers and other violent offenders and criminals who have been charged on multiple occasions as repeat offenders that are on the streets after getting some sort of bond or release after being taken into custody for another charge. Hundreds of people have been arrested since January 6th. Can't say the same about many of the riots and destruction of property throughout cities across America last year, but again, maybe we're comparing apples to oranges, maybe not. But I do have some questions that, of course, will not be asked during this House Select Committee hearing today. From a security standpoint, for instance, I also have some questions involving some of the bad actors who were involved that weren't there for the protest, but were there and their sole purpose to be present was there to stoke the fire as agitators and actors who do these sorts of things on a professional level. The anarchists, many of who were involved in the rioting and the destruction of property across many of our cities last summer. How many of those types of people were involved? These are questions that will never be asked, so we'll never get answers to these very relevant questions. Again, when we talk about security, with an understanding that we're in a divisive time, there is heightened awareness, people are passionate. You've got 100,000 people down the street protesting the election you're about to certify inside the U.S. Capitol. And you've got, well, a couple of cops with some nightsticks. You're going to certify the presidential election of the United States at the U.S. Capitol with 100,000 people down the street. And you've got, about a half dozen or so cops with some barricades standing there. And in some cases, as the video shown, letting them come on in. Well, how was that they're not a more beefed up security presence that day outside the Capitol with the understanding that something like this could happen? We'll never get any answers to those sorts of questions. So today is the first hearing of the House Select Committee to investigate January 6th, the riot at the Capitol. The panel will hear from a couple of cops who responded to the attack. There'll be one round of questions, an opening statement from the committee chair as well as Liz Cheney. Witnesses will then give their opening statements, and then each member of the committee will get 10 minutes to ask questions. But here's a little perspective here. Because we need to continue to investigate what happened on January 6th, despite the fact hundreds are in jail and none of the relevant questions regarding security or other actors involved in these crowds, none of those questions will be discussed or weighed. It'll just be another opportunity, of course, to shove it in the face of, well, Donald Trump and those who support him. Today will be the 15th House hearing on the January 6th riot. The Democrats will be showing a very similar video to the one that they showed during the second impeachment hearing of President Trump. And then they'll look for many participants to repeat the same things that they've said before. So this may be the first hearing of this new committee, at the expense of you, the taxpayer, of course, but not the first hearing to probe the riot. 14 congressional hearings thus far on the riot since winter, 14 in the House and 3 in the Senate. The Senate also spent more than 25 hours spread out over 4 days during the second impeachment trial of former President Trump to look into what occurred on January 6th. Hundreds of people already arrested and charged. What else is there to look into, other than some of the questions that we just presented a few minutes ago? We are 8 minutes in front of the hour here on the Big Talker FM.
According to research, 82% of people remember radio ads. That means that 82% of you listening right now will remember that this is an ad for ZipRecruiter. If you're hiring, 82% of you will recall that ZipRecruiter makes hiring faster and easier. And 82% of you will note that you can try ZipRecruiter for free today. But you have to go to ZipRecruiter.com/free. Yes, free. 82% of you will keep in mind that ZipRecruiter's technology finds qualified people for your job and actively invites them to apply.
Is that you? Who are you talking to?
82% of you will also know that I, live with my mom. But the most important thing to note is that ZipRecruiter works. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Will you be part of the 82% who remember where you can try ZipRecruiter for free? It's ZipRecruiter.com/free. Again, that exclusive link is ZipRecruiter.com/free. How much? Free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
This news and weather is brought to you by 2 Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to 2menandatruck.com. 2menandatruck.com.
When your AC stops, don't despair. Just go.
Go where? The South Pole?
Go Southern Comfort Heating and Air. For preventive maintenance, service, and repair, go there.
Where?
Southern Comfort Heating and Air.
Are they fair?
Fair and square. Low prices, speedy service, and technicians who care. When your AC stops, don't stare. Go there.
Is there a website you can share?
Go SouthernComfort.com. If you go anywhere else, beware.
I swear.
Call 910-524-7609.
Hey, this is Matt Ham, co-founder of Uprint Faith and Personal Development. Join us for Wake Up Our Faith, a real conversation about living out your faith between Sundays, streaming live every Wednesday at 11 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Catch the replay every Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Wilmington's Big Talker 106.7 FM. Stop by and visit us on the web at uprint.life.
Hi, this is Justin Humphreys from the Humphreys Law Firm on Eastwood Road. The Humphreys Law Firm is located in Lumina Station, Wilmington, North Carolina, practices civil litigation, intellectual property, commercial, and residential real estate. Please give us a call at 910-332-0721 or visit us on our website, which is www.humphreysfirm.law. You can also listen to me every Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
I'm State Farm Agent Rob Renz, and I want to help you get to a better state. We are one of the fastest growing and most reviewed insurance agencies in Wilmington. That's because our customers love the personalized attention that we give to you. Let us help you get to a better state by visiting our website at ilminsurance.com. That's ilminsurance.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Attorney Thom Goolsby going to join us in the second hour of the show, as he does every Tuesday. We will also hear from former Governor Pat McCrory here in about 10 minutes, seeking your vote in the Republican primary for the U.S. Senate seat that will be up for grabs in the midterms of 2022. That'll be our first conversation with Governor McCrory since tossing his name in the hat for the race among three leading candidates in the GOP primary, which will be hashed out in February of the new year. Locally, Molson Coors has reiterated their support for True Colors Brewing on the heels of the double homicide that occurred at the chief operating officer's home in the Middle Sound Loop area over the weekend. No new information on the investigation. Details still limited as to what played out the other night on Middle Sound. Of course, in that area, and I live towards that area, a lot of speculation, a lot of scuttlebutt and conversations going on, no doubt about it. The murderer remains at large. The identity of the female who was shot is still unknown. Her condition is unknown at this time. And, our stance hasn't changed real much from yesterday's commentary to where we are here this morning. As far as, the noble cause and mission of this for-profit business, working, of course, with and employing validated gang members and reiterating that they believe providing an economic, pedestal is a way to help encourage these validated gang members to see, a different route in life. That's not to say that, even if they are moving in that direction, that the old skeletons in the closet won't come out to get you. And, some of the things that you may be doing off the clock, so to speak. So still many questions in play in regards to this very scary situation that played out in a zero-crime neighborhood over the weekend in one of the unincorporated areas of New Hanover County. On the education front, Brunswick County Schools would like parents and households with families and school-age children to submit responses to a survey that they've put out to gauge feedback from parents about the use of masks inside school buildings ahead of the start of the upcoming academic year. Of course, those decision rights are now in the hands of local districts after Governor Cooper, the king, rescinded his mandate and provided that option now to the local schools. Although he recommended that they remain required, he's not requiring the mandates to remain in place. Pender County schools have said they'll make it optional. Brunswick County schools are gauging the interest of parents on this, and New Hanover County schools, of course, behind all of the districts in coming out publicly to indicate where they may be situated as far as the upcoming year for their school children with the masks inside the school buildings. Former Governor Pat McCrory joins us next here on the Big Talker FM.
Keeping Whiteville informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach.
The American Medical Association, among major public health groups, urging healthcare facilities to mandate the COVID-19 vaccine for their employees. The call for a vaccination requirement comes as new cases of the coronavirus continue to rise. 4 police officers scheduled to testify today as a House panel investigating the January U.S. Capitol riot holds its first hearing.
That's police officer Daniel Hodges screaming as he's crushed in a door trying to keep the mob out. Officers were also punched, trampled, and sprayed with chemical irritants. They were called racial slurs and threatened with their own weapons as the mob tried to interrupt the election certification. Testifying will be officers Hodges, Harry Dunn, Aquilino Gonell, and Michael Finone. The chairman of the House committee says this will let the public hear directly from those on the front lines and set the tone of the investigation. I'm Julie Walker.
And House GOP leader Kevin McCarthy, not surprised, the 2 fellow Republicans, Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney, have agreed to take part in the Democrats' investigation of the Capitol riot.
What was that, Adam and Liz? Aren't they kind of like Pelosi Republicans?
They're the only 2 Republicans on the Select Committee, and both of them had voted yes on the impeachment of then-President Trump. Seriously injured in a cycling mishap last Friday, retired Republican Senator Mike Enzi of Wyoming has died. 77-year-old Enzi died yesterday in Colorado, where he was hospitalized with a broken neck and ribs. Mike Enzi was 77 years old. Shaken but not injured, former Democratic Senator Barbara Boxer. She was assaulted and robbed in Oakland, California. She lost her new iPhone to the assailant, who shoved her before grabbing the phone, then taking off. Stock futures mixed on Wall Street. Dow futures down 92 points. NASDAQ futures 1 point higher. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Excuse me, why don't you have life insurance yet?
I've got diabetes, and I know the price will be through the roof for the pre-existing condition.
Well, actually, SelectQuote makes it easy to get very affordable life insurance, even if you have a health issue.
I'm listening.
You'll get quotes from some of the country's most trusted carriers. Even with your diabetes, you can get around $250,000 in insurance for as little as $1 a day.
That would be amazing. What's it called again?
SelectQuote. Just call or go to selectquote.com to get your free quote. Get the coverage you need at a price you can afford. Call 1-800-694-1010 or go to selectquote.com today. That's 1-800-694-1010 or selectquote.com. SelectQuote. We shop. You save. Get full details on example policy at selectquote.com/commercials. Monthly premiums vary based on health, company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
The leaders in North and South Korea have restored suspended communication channels between them while agreeing to improve ties. Those developments come amid a 2-year stalemate in U.S.-led diplomacy aimed at stripping North Korea of its nuclear weapons. While the move may certainly help to ease tension on the Korean peninsula, it's unclear whether Pyongyang would go as far as to revive previous vigorous cooperation programs with Seoul and get back to the nuclear talks with the U.S. An apartment building in the Egyptian capital of Cairo has collapsed, killing a man. Rescue workers who retrieved the man's body are frantically trying to rescue his wife from under the 4-story building. The rescuers had managed to speak with her through the rubble. It's not immediately clear what caused the collapse, but such incidents are common in Egypt, where shoddy construction is widespread in both cities and rural areas. News and analysis at townhall.com. More Maryland schools want their students vaccinated.
Colleges and universities are hiring additional staff to manage vaccination records for COVID-19 ahead of the fall semester. 14 Maryland schools will require students and employees to receive a COVID-19 vaccine. Some schools have collected immunization records for years, but they're now doing so on a larger scale and will include employees. Unvaccinated students who lack an exemption may not be allowed to live on campus or access campus facilities. Some could also see their registration for courses canceled. John Scott reporting.
Moderna planning to expand the size of its COVID-19 vaccine study in younger children to better detect rare side effects. The company says it's in talks with the FDA to enroll more study participants under the age of 12. Once again on Wall Street, Dow futures down 95 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here!
Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows.
It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore. When the world seems to shine like you've had too much wine, that's amore.
All right, as we head into hour number 2 here on the Big Talker FM, overlooking Battleship, North Carolina, the best view in town inside our Big Talker FM studios. Apparently one of the trolls out there feels that I'm being a little too dramatic on social media these days, given the fact that, well, last Thursday went to the gas station, there was no gas. Saturday afternoon, went to the grocery store, there was no Capri Sun juice boxes for the kids in stock. Buddy of mine went to one of the local retail stores the other day. Well, they had no brands with the size 32 to 40-inch waist. That's a pretty large scale of sizes that are completely out of stock. Went to the pet store last night. No cat litter in stock, the brand that we purchased. I'm being a little too dramatic, I guess, because we could just go to another store, he claims, and says we should stop complaining and just deal with it. Oh, American Airlines asking their pilots across the United States to conserve fuel when possible, as our major airlines are dealing with jet fuel shortages. State of North Carolina can't find a bottle of booze with alcohol shortages coming down the pipeline to your local ABC store near you in the not-so-distant future. But maybe I'm just being a little too dramatic for the trolls out there tuned into us each and every day here on the Big Talker FM and through our social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. You can find us anywhere and everywhere with your fingertips on your mobile device at Big Talker 106.7 FM, the mobile app in which you can download and install for you Apple iPhone users and those like me who use your Android device. Joining us here for the first time in his run for the U.S. Senate, seeking Republicans and unaffiliated votes for the upcoming primary in February, is the former governor of the state of North Carolina. Pat McCrory joins us here this morning on the phone line. Governor, it's a pleasure, and thank you so much for spending time with southeastern North Carolina today. Good morning.
It's great to be on your show. And I had a show in Charlotte for 3 years, and I miss it, but I'm glad I'm on the campaign trail because I sat on the sidelines for the past 3 years doing a very successful radio show in Charlotte and realized that some of those things we're seeing inflation, we're seeing high crime, we're seeing no immigration laws, we're seeing our cities decay, we're seeing homeless everywhere, and absolutely no national policy whatsoever where Washington is totally broken. And I basically see cities, state, and the nation reversing every policy that I tried to implement. I did implement as both a mayor and a governor, and we need some strong voices from outside of Washington to go to Washington right now, so that's why I'm running.
Governor, let me ask you, because I think there's a lot to tout as far as notches on the belt as far as they go when it comes to your time as the governor here in the state of North Carolina. It wasn't too long ago. North Carolina was in some pretty rough shape. So take some time now to tout some of the positives that we've seen come out of North Carolina since you were elected and since North Carolinians gave Republicans control of the steering wheel up in Raleigh.
Well, a lot of people have forgotten when I was elected governor and entered office in January of 2013, North Carolina was the fourth highest unemployment rate in the country. North Carolina was the fourth highest unemployment rate in the country, and I made some dramatic and changes to government to change that. And the biggest decision and the most difficult decision and controversial decision I made was I reduced the unemployment compensation to get people back to work. We had one of the highest unemployment compensations in the nation. And what I did was lower it to what South Carolina, Tennessee, and Virginia were paying. so people would quit moving to the state to get on our unemployment. And I wanted people to go back to work. And plus, we had a $2.3 billion debt we owed to the federal government because we borrowed all this money for unemployment. And that decision, 3 months later, resulted in the largest drop in unemployment in the United States of America. And now what's ironic, we're doing just the opposite. We're adding to unemployment, discouraging people from going to work. We're paying people more not to work than to work. And it's a socialism that's feeding especially the next generation of young workers who think, now I can stay home and not work and make more money. And you're seeing the impact on you not being able to get gas or paying high for gas, you not be able to get even cat litter. I mean, the whole supply system is shut down. And if you own a restaurant right now, you can't find workers, or a manufacturing plant. You cannot find workers. So I'm proud of what we did as governor in making that decision. And that's frankly when all the left-wing protesters started going against me, is when I made that tough, right decision. And we need some of that in D.C. right now.
Governor, when we look at kind of the makeup of this primary, of course, leading into the general, there are two other sort of leading candidates in this three-horse race in Congressman Ted Budd and former Representative Mark Walker. And if you look at the landscape of North Carolinians and voters who will be able to cast their ballot for you or the other two or any other candidate in this primary, there's kind of a divide. You've got the Republican Party made up of those who lean a little further to the right, those sort of moderates, and then those Democrat voters who are still capitalist and may be turned on by a candidate who has an R next to their name because they see their political party going a little too far off to the left. How do you appeal, particularly those voters who maybe cast a ballot for you as governor or in the city of Charlotte at one time, who may feel that you aren't too conservative enough for them? How do you approach those sort of voters? Because there are a lot of them out there.
I don't think there's anyone more conservative than me who has got an accomplished track record based upon people who've been in Washington for the past 4 years and did nothing to solve our debt, which I did as governor, to solve crime, which I did as both a mayor and governor. When I became mayor of Charlotte, we had horrendous murder rate, and what I did was get tough on crime. That's conservative. I got tough on crime and went after the career criminal. I even went after truancy. I imposed a curfew. I will be the only one in Washington, D.C. as a U.S. Senator who actually called the National Guard to put down Antifa. Now, if that's not conservative, I don't know what is. And that was when the mayor of Charlotte, when I was governor, did not want me to call the National Guard. And thank God I did, because I saved the city from Antifa coming and destroying a city. And we need more leadership like that in D.C. who actually has called the National Guard and knows how to call the National Guard to deal with these violent left-wing protesters. And that's exactly what I did. So when I hear a question like that, I go, no, that's not true. I was fiscally conservative. I was implemented policy to get people back to work. I cut your income tax. I cut corporate tax. I balanced the budget, and I paid off debt and turned those debts into surpluses. That's accomplishment that you don't get from my two worthwhile opponents, and especially from the Democrats that I hopefully will be running against in the general election.
Governor Pat McCrory with us here this morning, and given the list of accomplishments you kind of laid out there, I feel that there are many people who maybe have gotten the wrong idea about your stance on certain issues. It feels as if at least the rhetoric you hear from those in the circles, and that's what I do. I observe, I hit the circles, and then I come with questions that I feel are pertinent to the people that feel maybe a little disenfranchised surrounding maybe HP2, for instance, and they felt maybe you're a little squirmy, that you weren't out there fighting hard enough for these sorts of the pushback that you were receiving, that you weren't out there with the flag and waving it every single day the way they wanted you to.
I don't know who else stood up for the basic values of North Carolina's more than this governor and paid a price for it. But you see, I didn't become governor to win the next election. I became governor to protect the next generation. And we need more people in political office who don't care about the next election, but care more about the next generation. So whoever these people are, I'd like to give them, I'd like to hear the specifics of where I took strong stands versus my opponents in both the Republican primary and the Democrats I'll be challenging. And I think the polls speak for themselves. We're over 20 points up in the primary poll and polls that we've most recently seen, and also in fundraising. I'm proud to report that we raised $1.2 million, about 95% of it in state, versus what some of my opponents are doing. So I think the message is clear. I believe in strong leadership. I believe in taking stands that are right for the next generation. And that's exactly what I did. And I don't know how anyone could question that and without giving specifics of a false narrative that they're trying to spread.
Pat McCrory with us, former governor, and now seeking your vote in the Republican primary for the U.S. Senate race leading into the midterms of 2022. Governor, thank you again so much for making a quick turnaround and joining us here this morning across the Cape Fear region. When you stepped away, obviously due to the setback to Governor Cooper, and boy, oh boy, have we gone in a different direction with a governor who has issued more vetoes than all other governors combined, and how he's kind of stood in the way of the progress that you helped ignite. I think there's no question, we look at the grand scheme of things over the past 10 years, that North Carolina is a better place than we found it, say, before Republicans were in charge prior to the Great Recession.
Well, and what Governor Cooper is doing, and not just Governor Cooper, but Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, they're owned by the teachers' unions. They're owned by the radical left. They want to get rid of charter schools. They want to get rid of home schools. They want to get rid of choice for our parents. They want to indoctrinate our kids, not just in our universities, which we've basically lost, but they're indoctrinating elementary school kids now. And Governor Cooper is a part of this. And then regarding even some of our health care, some of the policies that have been enacted which shut down the economy were so inconsistent. For example, they say follow science, but Governor Cooper and Joe Biden would say shut down the bars, but keep breweries open. Now, the buyers know the difference between a brewery and a bar? Of course not. Or they make high school students wear masks during basketball games, but not college students or pro basketball players. Because I guess the science knows the difference between a high school basketball player and a college basketball player. That's where they played politics with our health as opposed to following science. And I called them out on it, and I'm going to continue to call them out on it. The radical left is made some terrible decisions and again, are infiltrating our cities, our state, and our nation. And I have the courage to stand up to them in a factual way, in a way of a problem solver, not just one who identifies the problems, but one who actually solves the problems.
Governor, as the former host of a very successful news talk radio show out there in Charlotte, and during your time as mayor and then governor, give us a few things that you've learned about yourself and about the people you represent during your time in the public spotlight over the last decade plus.
One thing I've learned in even doing radio after being a city councilman, a mayor, and a governor is that we as Republicans need to take the issues seriously, but we need a little self-deprecation too. We need a little humor, which we learned from Reagan. Reagan had a lot of humor, and I loved it. And we've got to recognize that we've got to also, to win, get the independent vote. I mean, right now, independents in North Carolina, there are more independents than Republicans. And so we've got to only be strong in our values, but we've got to communicate the right way where we, again, take the issues seriously, but maybe we don't take ourselves so seriously. It's the left wing and these protesters that, for example, just 2 days ago, were protesting at the home of Senator Thom, which is outrageous. It's an intimidation. It's a threat that the left wing is doing now, and anyone who objects to the left wing philosophy or orthodoxy is being threatened with their jobs, being threatened with their grades in our university, and being threatened with violence. And I just heard on the news that a former U.S. Senator boxer was mugged in California. This is what the left is doing. They're letting the criminals take over our city. We're not enforcing the law at our borders, and we're indoctrinating our kids against capitalism and promoting socialism in our schools at this point in time. And we're reversing the policies that I helped to implement at a local, state, and now federal level. And I hope to reverse that when I get to D.C.
Governor Pat McCrory with us here this morning on the Big Talker FM, our first of hopefully many conversations, Governor, from now until the February primary as this campaign starts to ramp up.
Any excuse to get down to southeastern North Carolina, where, as you know, as governor, I probably spent more time in that area of the state than any governor in the history of North Carolina. In fact, I'm going to be going down there this week and probably in the next 2 weeks return back. So any excuse, I look forward to get down to the Wilmington, Southport area, Whiteville area. I look forward to. I can't wait.
Well, we will.
A lot of friends down there.
Be sure to follow your staff and make sure that you become a frequent guest and name on our schedule as we carry the morning news program here in the Cape Fear region. Thanks again.
Hey, thanks again. Take care now. Bye-bye.
That's Governor Pat McCrory with us here on the Big Talker FM as we round through our second hour programming here in southeastern North Carolina. Well, one of the first here in this region to be able to catch up with the former governor. And again, there's plenty to tout as far as the record that he stands firmly behind, and rightfully so, or he would not be tossing his name, of course, in the hat for the U.S. Senate race that will be hotly contested come November of 2022. Big midterm elections, right around the corner as we move through the odd year here with some of the municipal races that we're keeping a close eye on. And then it'll be all eyes on the February primary between Governor McCrory, Congressman Ted Budd, and former Representative Mark Walker, kind of the three leading candidates in this race. The fundraising numbers are starting to come out. Several of the candidates starting to make appearances on the campaign trail. We had Representative Walker in our neck of the woods last week. As you just heard the governor, he'll be in our area in the next week or so. And look forward to future conversations with him and all of the other elected officials and candidates who want to discuss the issues the way we do each and every morning here on the Big Talker FM.
Yeah, here come the rooster. Yeah, you know he ain't gonna die. No, 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 you know he ain't gonna die.
I'm K.O. Davis from K.O.'s Coast to Coast Tree, and I want to be your tree man.
When your trees need cut, 2 letters to know. One is a K, the other is an O. K.O.
Tree man. Proper trimming is the most important thing that you can do, so don't just hire anybody to do it. You need someone that knows what they're doing.
K.O.
Call the professionals at K.O.'s Coast to Coast Tree and visit KOTrees.com.
Hey everyone, Ben Hawkins here with Cross Country Mortgage. Rates are still at historic lows, and there has never been a better time to purchase your dream home or refinance your existing. With over 300 loan products including conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, renovation, and jumbo, we are certain we have the right loan product for you and your family. Call me today to be pre-qualified to make the offer on your next dream home. 910-352-3373 or visit my website at lendwithben.com.
I'm Rob Renz, Marine Corps veteran, entrepreneur, and local business owner. Join me and my buddies on Monday from 6 to 7 for Signal Fire Radio, where we discuss how to successfully transition from the military and become a Signal Fire in your community. That's Signal Fire Radio, Mondays from 6 to 7 p.m. on 106.7 The Big Talk.
With a customer referral rating of 96%, Two Men in a Truck Wilmington has proven time and time again they are the top local choice when it comes to all of your moving needs. Offering a wide range of professional moving services, including local and long-distance moving, business relocations, both full or partial packing services and storage, Two Men in a Truck is dedicated to exceed customer expectations and reliability, quality of service, and care. To start your quote, log on to twomenandatruck.com or call 910-210-0224.
Hey guys, what if I told you that your wedding day could be the happiest day of your life, even if it rained?
You sound like the weatherman.
Better, Jordan. I'm a jeweler with the most amazing guarantee in the diamond business. If you buy your diamond engagement ring from us at Perry's Emporium and it rains on your wedding day, your ring is absolutely free.
It's the Perry's Emporium Legendary Rainy Day Diamond Guarantee.
No other jeweler in Eastern North Carolina has a larger selection of loose diamonds, diamond engagement rings, and wedding bands than Perry's Emporium, all at the guaranteed lowest price. Perry's Emporium in beautiful Barclay Commons behind Henry's and on the web at perrysemporium.com.
We'll see you when you get here.
Hear Thom Goolsby on the Joe Catenacci Show.
People with common sense know that the entire theory of socialism is one big lie.
The Big Talker 106.7 FM.
Don't miss this week's Recovering Hope. Mark Markley here, and this Wednesday I'll be speaking with Deanna Allen. Deanna is such an inspiration to so many, particularly but not limited to those currently or previously incarcerated. She has 28 years in recovery, dealt with every form of abuse in childhood, is now an author, mother of 7 with 1 in heaven. Countless youth call her mom, and thousands call her pastor. Please tune in this Wednesday from 6 to 7 p.m. right here on the Big Talker FM.
Step off the train, I'm walking down your street again and past your door, but you don't live there anymore. It's years since you've been there.
All right, as we head to the bottom of the hour, reaching the halfway point of the most listened to, entertaining, and informative talk program in the region. And to our knowledge, one of the first, if not the first, program to have a chance to catch up with the former governor of our state, and now senatorial candidate, Pat McCrory, at least in this region of North Carolina. And we look forward to future conversations with Pat and the other candidates vying for that Senate seat that, of course, will garner national attention and a lot of money poured into North Carolina leading into the November 2022 midterms. Now we're just awaiting word from Congressman Bud's staff as far as getting him scheduled for an appearance here on the Big Talker FM. Attorney Thom Goolsby going to join us after the break. Thom has been on fire over the last couple of days, lighting up my phone with all sorts of information in terms of COVID. That's the BS COVID-19 Chinese Communist virus. And, there have been some adjustments made by the Centers for Disease Control that hasn't necessarily made the national news. Thom will make you aware of some of these changes to their guidance and guidelines as it specifically relates to the sort of tests that have been used for those who feel that they may be fighting COVID or may have caught the virus. These tests known as PCR tests, and some changes that the CDC has made under the radar in regards to what these tests actually discover. Attorney Thom Goolsby will join us after the break.
Walking down your street again, past your door. I guess you don't live there anymore. It's years since you've been there, and now you've disappeared somewhere. I got a space. You found some better place, and I miss you. Like the deserts miss the rain, and I miss you.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWY News. The congressional investigation into the January 6th Capitol Hill attack gets underway today. The first public testimony will come from 4 police officers who were on the scene that day. Republican leaders have called for a boycott of the proceedings, but at least 2 GOP lawmakers have agreed to take part. Now to the latest on COVID-19. North Carolina, like many other states across the country, is seeing an uptick in COVID-19 cases. On Saturday, the number of single-day new cases surpassed 2,000, the highest since April 30th. More than 1,400 new cases were reported yesterday. 60% of the adult population of North Carolina has had at least 1 dose of the vaccine, and 57% are fully vaccinated. The Department of Health and Human Services also updating its county alert map. In the Cape Fear region, Brunswick County slipping from the green tier to the yellow tier, indicating a significant impact by the virus. New Hanover County doing the best of the 5 local counties with only moderate impact. Pender seeing substantial impact. Marine Corps Air Station at Cherry Point broke ground on the first of several military construction projects yesterday. Hurricane Florence was responsible for $450 million in damage to the station and its outlying fields. Then President Donald Trump and Governor Roy Cooper visited in September of 2018. The new construction is part of the $149 million Hurricane Florence recovery package. The headquarters facility is estimated to be complete by spring of 2023. And if you've ever wanted to bring your dog to an Azalea Festival event, now is your chance. The Azalea Festival, in partnership with Paws for People, are hosting the 2nd annual Paws on Parade Saturday. It's from 5 to 9 p.m. at the Greenfield Lake Amphitheater. There will be live music, a puppy kissing booth, and professional dog portraits. For more on these stories, head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Trajectory forecast. We are going to see some changes as we go throughout the day today. A better chance for some scattered showers in store for us, although we are going to see a good deal of dry time. Temperatures will be jumping back up into the upper 80s, low 90s. Inland of the coast, coastal communities will top off in the middle 80s once again. But as we head into the overnight hours tonight, a few showers will stick around with mostly cloudy skies, and our temperatures do stay mild, dropping down to the middle 70s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by 2 Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to 2menandatruck.com. 2menandatruck.com.
Mike check, Mike check. It's Yael Osowski here, Deputy Director of the Consumer Choice Center. You'll hear me every Friday at 9:30 on the Mornings with Joe Catenacci Show, giving you the latest in consumer news, analysis, and political topics to make sure you get your consumer fix. Then hear me and my radio partner in crime, David Clement, on the Consumer Choice Radio Show, Saturdays at 10. Only here on the Big Talker 106.7 FM.
Hey, this is Charlie Miller, your state representative in the North Carolina House. Just wanted to say thank you for listening. If you get a chance to go on Facebook and search Representative Charlie Miller to receive my exclusive legislative updates to keep you up to date with all of what's happening in Raleigh. You can also sign up for my newsletter to have a direct line of information straight from the Capitol. Looking forward to hearing from you soon. Paid for by the committee to elect Charlie Miller for NC House.
We interrupt to bring you this horrible news. Experts say we'll see larger numbers and different breeds of mosquitoes to wreak havoc on your backyard, making this year one of the worst.
Anopheles and Culex rati mosquito.
Yeah. Experts also say there is only one defense against this onslaught. Call the Bugman from Bugno Pest Control.
That's Mr. Bugno to you, pal.
Bugno Pest Control's mosquito-killing formula keeps your yard bug-free. Call Bugno Pest Control, 910-367-2501, or visit bugnopestcontrol.com. Take back your yard.
Some people call me the space cowboy. Yeah. Some call me the gangster of love. Some people call me Maurice. 'Cause I speak of the pompatus of love.
Attorney Thom Goolsby joins us inside this 8 o'clock block every Tuesday here on the Big Talker FM, and with us once again this morning. Thom, it's a pleasure. Thanks again, as always.
Joe, always. Yes, Same here.
You've been, hard at work burning the midnight oil as my phone's been lit up over the last couple of days with various text messages that you've put forth and some changes, under the radar that the CDC has been making in regards to COVID tests. Why don't you give us some information as far as what your investigation has found recently?
Well, Joe, I got a text from a friend about a change to the CDC website. It was an article that was written on some obscure blog that I had not seen before. And I read everything a little askance. For those who don't know what I do, I'm a trial attorney. So my life revolves around presenting evidence before juries and proving things based upon facts and reality, not based upon just politics. And I guess what disturbs me about all of this COVID that we've been through for the last year and a half or so is the way that you will hear people like Fauci, who is a politician and a bureaucrat. You will hear him say over and over again how he is a scientist and everything is follow the science. You hear you see Silicon Valley trying to ban, not just trying, but banning all sorts of other doctors and scientists who have competing views and are simply putting forward facts. They are banned as COVID deniers. And what I found so disturbing when I first read this article, and I had to go to the source material, and I sent it to you, Joe, and I don't know, do you have anywhere you can post that for anybody who listens to us that wants to share it with other people? It is what actually was posted at the CDC website on 7/21/21, the lab alert. Do you have anywhere you can post that and send listeners to, Joe?
Absolutely. Yeah, right on our Facebook page, and we'll do that here momentarily.
Outstanding. So go to the Facebook page of the Big Talker, and you'll see a link. This was put out very innocuously last Wednesday, the 21st of July, and it's labeled from the CDC Division of Laboratory Systems as Lab Alert. Changes to CDC RT-PRC, we know what the PRC testing is, for SARS-CoV-2 testing. And as you read this, you see that after December 31, 2021, the CDC will withdraw requests from the FDA for emergency use authorization of the novel coronavirus real-time, that's what RT stands for, PRC diagnostic panel. The assay first introduced in February 2020 for the detection of SARS-CoV-2. Now, the reason they are removing this, as you read further in the CDC's own lab alert, is that the test they have been running on all of us is inaccurate. It actually gives positive readings for influenza as well as SARS-CoV-2, which means that all of this talk that you and I have been questioning for months about what happened to influenza, where did it go? We were told, of course, what, Joe? That, you're wearing these masks, you're washing your hands. We had no idea this would have such a crazy impact on getting rid of the flu. No, that's what they said. But remember, they also said, hey, COVID is spreading because you idiots aren't wearing your masks. Well, it's like, wait, which is it? Is it we don't have the flu because we're being so good about wearing masks and washing our hands? Or are we not doing that and spreading COVID? What's going on? What's working? What's not working? What's happening? Well, Joe, it doesn't take a genius to figure out. I mean, it's not like the FDA's just learned this. They're just now reporting it and removing the emergency authorization for the rapid test because it tests you positive for COVID, even if you have the flu, the basic flu. So what this tells us is the numbers that we were given this last year for all these people that tested positive. And Joe, think of the impact of this. You had folks that wanted to go to, go on family vacations. That's a minor thing. What about not being able to go to your mom's funeral because you tested positive for COVID and you missed important life events? Now to find out that the test they were giving you, they are now mandating when we come into this next flu season that no, you can't use that test anymore. You have to come up with a multiplex of other tests that are accurate. So we've learned yet another lie here that's been foisted upon us. All those numbers that we were given, that we're still being given, because that test is going to be given up until December 31. So your kids who are trying to go back to college, who are getting tested every week when they're at college or more often with this rapid test, if they come down with the flu or again test positive for the flu, it's going to test positive for SARS-CoV-2. And again, don't take my word for it. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a lawyer. Read what they just put out. And Joe, you monitor the news more than I do. Was this released on any? Did anybody carry this?
Well, not to my knowledge, and even given the link that we're utilizing directly from the source and the horse's mouth, the CDC, even with the link and the information that we're equipped with here this morning, there will be people who are tuned in calling us, tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists and murderers and deniers, anti-vaxxers, and all these other sorts of things that they'll come up with to criticize and try and tear this conversation apart. When all we're doing is calling attention to something from the horse's mouth directly. Read it yourself. We're not making any of this up.
Well, and Joe, I'm not saying that people didn't suffer from COVID.
Correct.
People didn't die from it. People didn't die from the flu. People didn't die from the flu that may have been misdiagnosed as being said they had COVID, and instead simply had influenza that kills hundreds of thousands of people every year. So again, all of this that we heard over time about the flu going away. Remember that you and I talked about on the show, Joe, when I read Scientific America and read the article about how pediatric influenza deaths had gone from 200 down to 2, from 200 to 2 on average. And I was like, how did this happen? Scientific America, again, just explained it away as how effective the masks and all these other mandates were, when Joe, the CDC could not have just figured this out. I mean, these are scientists. These are folks who, how could they not know that we were getting all of these false positives for influenza and it was being reported as COVID. And again, I always come up with those two Latin words, qui bono. Who benefits? You always ask. I ask that in every criminal trial. I ask that in every civil trial. What is the motivation for the person you're talking to act the way they act? Who benefits from this? Who benefited from telling potentially hundreds of thousands of people or more that they had COVID when they actually had influenza? When the test that they were being given, the rapid PRC test, and remember, the guy who invented the PRC test said it wasn't to be used to detect COVID. The guy who invented it, who won the Nobel Prize, who passed away right about the time that all the COVID stuff started up, who was not a fan of Fauci either, by the way. But again, Joe, I guess what disgusts me more than anything else is I've been in the political arena for many years, having served a couple of terms in the North Carolina Senate and plenty of other things before that, and to see the politicization of what we're experiencing with all this, the gamesmanship. The folks like Fauci like to tell you that I'm a scientist. We only look at the science. Well, this doesn't appear to be very good science to me. And then we have to ask, why was this done? Why has this been allowed for 18 months or so? Why are they cutting it out before the next flu season? I mean, what is going on here? Where are the mea culpas? Where are people standing up and reporting this? Why is it not even being talked about? Why did I have to get it from one person, do a search with DuckDuckGo so I could actually find it instead of Google, and then find it and then read it and say, oh my gosh, this is crazy, and it's reported nowhere. It's reported nowhere. And for the life of me, I can't understand why aren't regular medical doctors up in arms about how their patients have been misled, how they've been misled, how they've treated people for COVID when they had the flu potentially, all the people that denied access to any number of things, their lives turned upside down. And now we're being told, oh, this next flu season, we're going to make sure you do an accurate test so we don't tell you have COVID when you don't. I just, Joe, it's mind-boggling. It makes me angry. It makes me concerned about the politics that has been injected into what we've been told over and over again is science. And I'm very let down and disturbed by it all.
Well, now, of course, the fact of the matter is we've got even some of our elected officials basically calling out, those who remain, hesitant when it comes to the jab, but when it comes to the COVID vaccine, and placing all of the blame, of course, on those unvaccinated as to why we may have to go back into lockdown mode, or why we need to, reinforce mask mandates across areas of the country. Just a quick question on that, Thom. When we talk about, who benefits, as you kind of mentioned, and all the money that's being made across the country throughout the course of this pandemic, well, who's making money off of these vaccines? Of course, that's Big Pharma. All of the players in all of this. And my question is, when we talk about vaccinations, when we talk about profit margins for Big Pharma, what kind of dough they're making right now in the terms of tens of billions of dollars off of this vaccine. As also buried in the news recently, some of those major players in Big Pharma having to pony up at the tune of dozens of billions of dollars for misleading the public on, well, the opioid pandemic. When we talk about the baby powder, that chemicals used in the manufacturing of that led to cancer among children, which they're also paying billions of dollars out in lawsuits right now. So why is it so difficult for people to see why some folks in our society may have some questions about the intentions of these big pharmaceutical companies and the direction that they're pointing us all into, while of course they rake in big money?
Well, Joe, all the ones we're talking about have previously entered pleas to corporate fraud. I mean, that is a matter of public record. And of course, the things that we're talking about here are not allowed to be talked about on social media, which is supposed to be, just like radio is supposed to be an open forum, is supposed to be a public commons, but is not treated that way, is highly regulated by whatever they call the people that are the information sorters, the screeners, the truth hall monitors. But when we look at all of this and what's going on and what continues to go forward, maybe you can explain it to me, Joe, because I don't really watch much of the news. But if the vaccine is safe and effective, what is the point about the people that haven't gotten the vaccine? I mean, how many of those people, which we don't do any testing for as far as antibodies go? I mean, Joe, have you ever had the flu before, and then you go to the doctor and you ask about getting the flu vaccine, and they tell you, no, don't get the flu vaccine because you might have an autoimmune response because you've already had the flu, because you have natural immunities to it? I'm trying to understand, again, I know this is a different kind of vaccine. This is a messenger ribonucleic acid vaccine. It is a mRNA. It is different than anything that's been used before. I was actually, I may have mentioned this on the show last week, I was talking to a Harvard virologist, a friend of one of my family members who's been doing a lot of COVID testing. And I verified, that this vaccine, a vaccine of this nature, has never been used before. They originally thought they would use mRNA technology. It wasn't called a vaccine until recently, but they would use that for cancer treatments. But then, of course, they identified it as a potential vehicle to deal with COVID. But if the COVID vaccine is safe and effective, I don't quite understand why people who have already had the vaccine, if it's safe and effective, would have any worries from the people who haven't had the vaccine. Why would there have to be mask mandates again? Why would there be any problems other than the way the mainstream media puts it, letting the idiots who won't get the shot just suffer on their own? What does that have to do with society at large, where you've got 70+% of people who've already had the vaccine? Can you explain that to me, Joe? How does that work? How is that a problem?
It seems as if there has been settled science in many instances that have gone on for the better part of the last century that we totally denied and just pushed aside in our addressing of this current pandemic that we're trying to navigate our way out of. It's amazing to me that some of the most renowned scientists, some of the highest paid bureaucrats in our federal government would just shun all of the knowledge and information that they've had over the course of a century to study in the name of what that we've seen over the past year. To me, that's the most baffling out of all of this.
Well, yeah, I'm just trying to understand, though, that if the vaccine is safe and effective and will keep you from getting SARS-CoV-2, how are you going to go back to mask mandates because a few people haven't gotten it? I'm not following that. How do they infect people who've taken the safe and effective vaccine? You see what I'm saying, Joe?
Oh, no.
It doesn't add. It doesn't add up to me. I don't understand this problem. It's just like I don't understand why we now find out that the rapid test PRC that they have been doing for, all this time is not accurate, and it has been giving apparently so many multiple false positives for the flu that they're now mandating that test be discontinued, the emergency use authorization be cut. So maybe I'm just an idiot, Joe. I'm getting older. Maybe I just can't figure things out anymore, but people still trust me to try their cases and handle their matters. I don't think I've lost it yet. I'm just trying to put 2 and 2 together and see if they equal 4.
Yeah, and interesting, of course, that they just slid that in there in the recent guidance through the CDC. No big to do about it. Just, by the way, that PCR rapid test that we've been giving out by the tens of millions over the past year, well, it also, may flag the flu in addition to, of course, the coronavirus. By the way, just that little nugget there we want to include in the website as to why we're discontinuing this form of testing in the, not so distant future.
Yeah, let me just correct one thing you said, Joe. You said may tag the flu. No, does tag the flu. Does test positive for the flu. And that's the reason that they're discontinuing it with the onset of the next flu season, which again, I'm wondering why. Why are they doing it now? And why are they not doing it until December 31? So for all of you folks who are trying to travel, or your kids are going back to college and they're going to be taking that rapid test, imagine telling your kid he's going to have to miss 2 weeks of college because he's got COVID and has to be quarantined, only to find out that no, he just had the common flu. He just had influenza, and they're going to still be doing this. So again, it is mandating that multiplex tests be used going forward after December 31. I would encourage folks, ask your doctor about what you can do to get an accurate test. Are we going to have any other kind of rapid tests that are going to be made available. But it is fascinating to me that the FDA or the CDC has finally come out and admitted this and then discontinued this with the next flu season. And again, Joe, why is it not being talked about anywhere? I mean, this is directly from the CDC's website. What am I missing? I would love to know what I'm not understanding here, how this happens. It doesn't get reported. Nobody talks about it. And it's just, hey, these are not the droids you're looking for. Move on. I mean, I'm just, what am I missing here? This sounds like, forgive me, Joe, you're in the news business. This sounds like news. I mean, it does. It sounds like news to me. I mean, why wouldn't it be reported? Maybe it's just not politically correct enough, but it is beyond me. Where's our local media? Where's anybody asking any questions to anybody about any of this stuff? I mean, has everybody just completely gone to sleep at the wheel? I thought these kids went to journalism school to learn to be investigative journalists, to learn to write, to learn to ask questions, to learn to read press releases, then investigate what you're being told, and get a couple of, each side to the story, and then let the public sort it out in their own heads. But when they don't even report the story, it just blows my mind. Why not? Is this not newsworthy? Of all things that we've gone through, is this not a newsworthy press release by a lab alert by the Centers for Disease Control last Wednesday about the inaccuracy of the rapid test and the fact that it tests positive for the flu and has for the last year and a half?
Last Wednesday, this was released, by the way. Last Wednesday.
We're almost a week later.
Yeah.
Almost a week later, and nobody listening. I guarantee you,
heard it.
There is not anybody in your audience who's heard about this.
Yeah, no question.
Why is it being broken here?
Thom Goolsby with us here this morning. Yeah, well, again, it's just par for the course as we've been following the science, the data, and the numbers for the last year and a half. All that have been inaccurate at best when it comes to the ways in which they've portrayed this whole thing to us, the people. And again, we have to preface everything, Thom, by saying that's not to say it's not real or that people haven't suffered and died from it. Yeah, that's not to say that.
They have, but how many people have suffered extra because we've not used good science, even with the testing? And it's not like they don't have other tests. I mean, they're saying you need to use other tests. This one doesn't work. The one we've been using and we've been sending everybody to, that the creator told us was not good for testing for these things. The man who invented it won the Nobel Prize. We're now going back and saying, oh, by the way, we're not going to use this anymore. Anyway, Joe, food for thought, my friend.
No question. We posted all of the information we talked about just for the last few minutes right on our Facebook page. Look it up for yourself directly from the CDC website as far as this rapid test that Thom mentioned that does include positive tests for influenza along with coronavirus that they've been jabbing up your nose for the better part of the last year. If you felt some symptoms related to, the flu or the coronavirus, as many of the symptoms that I dealt with were very flu-like. And to think about how many of these numbers would have changed one way or the other. But as you mentioned, how these folks misled us, Thom, I think is also a point of contention here. How they told us the masks were the reason why there was no flu last year, when in fact it was, the tests that were involved in all of this.
And Joe, didn't they know all along? How could the scientists not know all along exactly what we're talking about? They're just now removing the emergency use authorization and telling us what actually happened.
Attorney Thom Goolsby with us every Tuesday inside this 8 o'clock block, one of the best, and that's why we've got him once a week here inside this second hour of our show. Thom, it's a pleasure, my friend. Eye-opening news. And again, go to our Facebook page if you don't believe your ears and what you were hearing this morning. Read it for yourself. Thanks, Thom.
Thank you, Joe. Take care.
Great to have Thom Goolsby as a friend and a part of the program every Tuesday here on the Big Talker FM.
Keeping Southport informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach.
By year's end, that's the word from President Biden following talks with Iraqi Prime Minister Mustafa al-Kadhimi.
The announcement comes in a joint communique after the two leaders met in the White House. The U.S. operations in Iraq are expected to remain largely unchanged, as U.S. troops there have been in a mostly training and advisory role for years. Additionally, the distinction between combat and non-combat troops is not clear. The announcement comes as both U.S. officials and al-Kadhimi have been struggling to balance a continued need to keep ISIS in check, with repeated attacks on U.S. forces by Iran-backed militia and political pressure on the Prime Minister to boot U.S. troops. Bernie Bennett from Washington.
A House panel investigating the January riot at the U.S. Capitol holds its first hearing today, and 4 police officers, Harry Dunn, Aquilino Ganell, Michael Fanone, and Daniel Hodges, will recount what happened to them as they confronted the rioters.
In previous interviews, Dunn said attackers yelled racial slurs and fought him in hand-to-hand combat. Ganell, an Iraq veteran, detailed surgery on his foot and injuries from which he struggled to recover. Fanone described being dragged down the Capitol steps by rioters who shocked him with a stun gun and beat him. Hodges was beaten and crushed between 2 doors, his bloody face and anguished screams caught on video.
That's correspondent Julie Walker. No arrests yet in the assault and robbery of former Senator Barbara Boxer happened on a street in Oakland, California. An assailant made off with Boxer's new iPhone after shoving her. Boxer was not hurt. Reigning Olympic gymnastics champ Simone Biles is out of the team finals with a medical issue. 24-year-old U.S. star considered the greatest gymnast of all time. Watching Wall Street, Dow futures are down 84 points. NASDAQ futures 9 points higher. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
I had a lot of credit card debt, and I couldn't pay my bills. I was feeling so bad. I got to a point where I needed some help. So I reached out and contacted Trinity.
If you're in debt and you need help, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976 to talk to a certified counselor.
They were able to take all of my different payments and put them all together.
Trinity will consolidate your accounts into one easy-to-manage monthly payment, put a stop to late fees and over-limit charges, reduce your interest, and possibly improve your credit score. You'll save thousands.
And they were actually able to work with my creditors. I've been able to pay off close to $15,000 in the last 18 months.
If your debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976.
My name is Stephanie, and I'm debt-free for keeps.
1-800-990-6976.
Stocks have hit the skids in Hong Kong amid growing concern over China's plans for stricter regulation of different segments of the economy.
This was the second day in a row of significant share price falls in Hong Kong. The sudden decline was triggered in part by the Beijing government's decision last week to ban private for-profit tutoring in core school subjects. Education firms hemorrhaged value as a result. But technology shares were also badly hit after the entertainment and e-commerce giant Tencent was banned from engaging in exclusive music copyright agreements and fined for unfair market practices, sparking fears of a renewed regulatory drive against the sector.
That's a BBC's Theo Leggett. An explosion at an industrial park in Germany has killed at least one person, 16 injured, 4 others still missing. Fire officials who tested the air say there did not appear to be a danger to nearby residents. News and analysis, townhall.com. American Airlines says it's encountering fuel shortages at some smaller and mid-sized airports, and in some cases the airline will add refueling stops or fly fuel into locations where the supply is very tight.
American says the shortages will last through mid-August, according to a company memo to pilots on Monday. The airline says fuel supplies are being squeezed at several airports because of a shortage of tanker trucks or drivers. Delta, meanwhile, says Reno, Nevada is the most affected, and pipelines have been devoting more space to gas and diesel and less to jet fuel during the pandemic. Southwest says the situation hasn't affected its flights, but it's added more fuel on some planes to limit the amount needed at airports with shortages. I'm Julie Walker.
Seriously hurt in a cycling accident last Friday, retired Republican Senator Mike Enzi of Wyoming has died. He was 77 years old. More on these stories at townhall.com.
The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here!
Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore. When the world seems to shine like you've had too much wine, that's amore.
7 minutes past the top of the hour, our third and final 60-minute session here this morning on the Big Talker FM. Time flies when you're having fun, as we are. As always, here within the Cape Fear region on the coastline of this beautiful state. We know it as North Carolina, overlooking the battleship North Carolina here along the Cape Fear River this morning. Our call-in number is 910-299-7535 if you'd like to join the program. Of course, just after 10 o'clock each day, you can get the podcast version of our show on my website at joecats.com. That's JOECATS.com. If you missed portions of today's program or any other previous shows, you can go to our website. You got the timestamp there, commercial-free, and you jump in there and you can pick and choose on what you want to listen to. Earlier this morning, of course, we had former Governor Pat McCrory with us, of course, tossing his name in the hat for the Republican candidacy and nomination leading into the 2022 U.S. Senate race here in our state. Great to have the governor, Pat McCrory, with us a little earlier in the program. Again, joecats.com. By now, you know that we have an affinity and a special place in our heart for the men and women who serve our country through our armed forces. This is why every Friday, just after 7:30, we have coined a segment of our show as a Freedom Friday portion of the program, where we tell stories of service and bring in different stakeholders in whether it be active duty service or those who have served transitioning maybe to civilian life and the many veterans that call southeastern North Carolina their home. Of course, announced yesterday that the Military College at the University of North Georgia and their Golden Eagles Marching Band will be the featured band as part of this year's Veterans Day Parade, which will be held on Saturday, November 6th at 11 a.m. here in downtown Wilmington. That will be the headliner, the University of North Georgia Military College Golden Eagles Marching Band. Of course, again, every Friday morning, just after 7:30, we tell stories of service because we will never forget and always remember the sacrifices that the men and women of our armed forces make day to day to preserve the greatest nation the world has ever known. And that does not come with sacrifice, of course. Some and many have given the ultimate sacrifice. Others dealing with all sorts of circumstances that ultimately lead to, what is it right now? 22 veterans a day take their lives through suicide. And, of course, on Mondays from 6 to 7 p.m. here on the Big Talker FM, our good buddy Rob Renz and Matt Mylott, Evan Anderson, as part of the Signal Fire radio show, tell those stories, successful stories, in ways in which you can work to transition from a life of service to a successful life very well after, of course, you hang up your uniform in service to our country. I want to point your attention to an effort that U.S. Marine Corps retired Major Scott Huesing is making over the next several days as the best-selling author of the book, Echo in Ramadi. Major Huesing is now riding his Harley-Davidson across the country again this year for an organization close to his heart known as Save the Brave to raise awareness for veteran suicide. Major, are you with us this morning? Good morning, sir.
Yeah, we're with you. How are you this morning?
Oh, doing great. And we just spent like 10 minutes highlighting all the things that we do to advocate for our veterans through this radio program and other organizations around here. Given such military history and roots that we have on the Carolina coast, kind of sandwiched between Bragg and Camp Lejeune, here we are in the Cape Fear region. Major, talk about some of the things that you do through Save the Brave to bring awareness to this issue facing our many veterans across the country.
Well, first, thanks for having me on and sharing this story. The ride itself is an 8-day ride from California all the way to Miami, Florida. And it started last year after my good friend Dave White. I went to high school with him. He's a Navy vet, killed himself up in Montana. And his mom asked me to come out and give the eulogy. At the height of COVID, I decided to hop on my Harley and kind of bucket list it. And the ride just blew up along the way, and we had a ton of support. We raised a bunch of money. We weren't even trying to raise money at that point. And we've been doing this since 2015 with SaveTheBrave.org, and we connect veterans who are struggling with post-traumatic stress in a safe space. That's what we do. We've been very effective and helped thousands of people over the last 6 years. One of our biggest programs is officer fishing, but this ride is really turned into something bigger than that. And what's most important is I don't like to use the word awareness. I think that what we're trying to do out here is stop veteran suicide. If there's veterans listening, first responders listening, the message is always the same. Stop killing yourselves. There are so many people within your own tribe, within your communities that care about you, that have resources for you, that love you. We want guys to stop killing themselves. And we know that number is never going to be zero, but we like to think at SaveTheBrave.org, we're part of the problem, because awareness and prevention, I think, there's a vast differentiation in those terms. And I'm very careful when I talk about that, because at the beginning and the end of every day, I get up and I feel if, I'm not helping other people, I'm not helping myself. And those numbers that you see on TV, the 22 a day, those aren't statistics. Those are my friends. Those are the Marines that served under my command, that allowed me to be sitting here talking to you today. And that's what we're out here doing. And, it's a tough physical ride. It's hot. It was 105 yesterday. The grips melted off of my Harley as I was riding to Odessa, Texas. And we do it with a happy heart, and we got a lot of support out here on the road. But, we're committed to this. And if, we help just one person at a time, I think that's all you can do. And that's sometimes more than most are willing to do. And that's what sets some people apart from others, I believe.
Major, you're author of the book Echo in Ramadi, the first-hand story of U.S. Marines in Iraq's deadliest city. So, you've seen your fair share of, action elsewhere around the world. How have you been able to, put some of those demons aside to lend a hand or to lend your heart to people who, maybe in a little worse off of a circumstance than you are?
Well, there's plenty out there. And when I wrote Echo in Ramadi 3 years ago, and, I never had, visions that it would become a #1 bestseller. But it was important because that story needed to be told. And what's even better is there's so many people far outside of the military circles that story was written for. I didn't really write it for veterans or those that are on active duty. I wrote it for the other 99% that have never served. They need to see what our tribe is going through and look at it through my lens. And to be able to do that, I think, and do all the work I do with the nonprofit is something that really sustains me. I don't think writing a book was a huge catharsis, but it's those singular emails from total strangers from West Virginia or North Carolina or around the world that reach out to me and say, man, this had an impact on me. And the fact that you shared what you did with me is really something special. And, if if that affects the average ordinary citizen, I know it's affected those that I served with and others within our tribe. So I think that's what helps me. And I think that by sharing that, I'm very lucky to have the capacity to share that. I know not everybody does that. I never say I'm the voice for the veteran community, but those that are willing to do it and those that have the capacity, I think it's important to do that and to continue to share those stories.
Major Scott Huesing is with us, working alongside the organization known as Save the Brave, connecting veterans through outreach programs to help build strength of character, committed to providing veterans with ways to cope and work through their post-traumatic stress. And again, author of the bestseller, Echo in Ramadi, the firsthand story of U.S. Marines in Iraq's deadliest city. Major, talk about how long you travel each day. You said 6 days from California to Miami, and some of the goals that you put forth this year after making a successful ride 1 year ago.
We've got 8 days on the road this year. Last year I rode across the coast and back. Last year I rode 5,150 miles total, but this year we've got a bit of a Pony Express going. So it's 9 Harley-Davidson dealerships in 9 different cities, and we've got a lot of local community, small-owned businesses that are supporting us, microbreweries, restaurants, all holding events each night. They are the key to the success because in each one of those stops, the goal through those organizations and businesses is to raise $5,000. Our goal across the country by the time we hit Miami, Florida, is $50,000. And we're well on our way, but we need support from everybody as we make this journey. They can go to savethebrave.org and click and make a one-time donation or a monthly recurring donation of $5. It's less than the cost of a tank of gas a year. But you'll never see the effects of the donation you make sometimes, but they're lasting. And I'm here to say that those people that support in that capacity really do make a difference. There's a lot of great opportunities, too, to get out on the road. We've had first responders escort us in and out of town. We've had civilians, American Legion riders ride us in. We've got a great support network that's providing sponsorship with us along the way. And we got another 2,000 miles left ahead of us. It's going to be just over 3,000 miles this year, but it's all done for the right reasons, for the right people.
Major Scott Huesing's the executive director of Save the Brave. Again, they're on a 3,000-mile trek as we speak to raise awareness and not only raise awareness but make a difference in the lives of those who serve our country and the veterans who are dealing with issues far beyond what many of us can fathom, given their experiences. And Major, as I let you go, given that some of the conflicts that have been going on, for my entire lifetime, in some instances, are starting to wrap up. We're going to be dealing with a whole new group of veterans transitioning into that civilian life and trying to find their way and their mission beyond service to our country. Are we highlighting or are we doing enough right now, across the board when it comes to making sure that we're able to welcome these boys and girls home with open arms and ready to provide them the resources needed to get over that hump that they'll be facing for sure?
That's a great question because we were just talking about that, and a neighbor of mine before I started this ride asked me, why doesn't the government do this? Why doesn't corporate America do this with all the wealth they have and take care of our veterans? And we're never looking for that. We're never looking for a handout. But I told him, I said, well, we take care of our own first, and that's what we do. And that's why we do these events like the Ride for the Brave. But those active duty service members that I served alongside who are now senior officers or senior enlisted members, we were just talking about my concern for them because they've fought alongside of us during that time frame in Ramadi and Fallujah and Afghanistan. And over these years, they continue to serve, and they've compartmentalized all of that trauma and all of those issues. And we sat around one day and we said, man, when are those guys going to start unpacking that baggage? And when they do, we're going to probably see another whole wave of guys that are struggling to deal with all of those things that they put away up on the shelf, close the door, turn the key, and didn't deal with for the last 12, 14 years now that these wars are winding down. So we're here for them at Save the Brave. I think we're great at what we do, but there's a lot of other great veteran nonprofits out there and support systems in place. But if people are interested in what we do, they can go to savethebrave.org and find out everything what we do. One of our biggest programs is our offshore fishing in California and now in Texas. So there's a lot of great opportunities for guys to hit the reset button, decompress, connect in a safe space, and really empower those guys to do what we're doing out here this week, is hold your own event and empower those guys to understand, like, hey, giving back is probably the best way to give to yourself.
Major, thanks so much for sharing some time with us. Safe travels on your trek to Florida over the next couple of days.
Thank you, sir, and thanks to the whole team for having me on. Appreciate you.
As retired Major Scott Huesing of the U.S. Marine Corps with us here this morning, also author of the best-selling book, Echo in Ramadi, the first-hand story of U.S. Marines in Iraq's deadliest city. He, along with Save the Brave, making a 3,000-mile ride across America on their Harleys, raising awareness for their organization in efforts to, of course, support those veterans dealing with depression, alcohol abuse, post-traumatic stress disorder, especially impacted over the past year due to the isolation they've been feeling, we've all been feeling as a result of the pandemic. SaveTheBrave.org if you'd like to know more about their organization. Thanks to Major Huesing for spending time with us here this morning on The Big Talker FM. Folks, we all know ongoing road construction and traffic can weigh heavy on your vehicle. Since 2006, O'Leary's Automotive Repair has provided comprehensive repair services at affordable prices to get you back on the road in no time. Their ASE-certified technicians will help you find a cost-effective repair and maintenance alternatives. O'Leary's has multiple locations in the area in Hampstead, Leland, the Myrtle Grove area, Ogden, and Wrightsboro. O'Leary's Automotive Repair, a trusted, locally owned business since 2006.
Hey, this is Matt Ham, co-founder of Uprint and the co-host of Wake Up Our Faith, every Saturday and Sunday right here in Wilmington's Big Talker. We invite you to join with our nonprofit movement by participating in the Portable Faith Community. This is a $10 a month tax-deductible contribution, and you get access to daily encouragement, resources, as well as our prayer community. You can go to wakeupmyfaith.com to get subscribed and learn more. That's wakeupmyfaith.com.
The Wilmington Cape Fear Home Builders Association serves as the advocate for the building industry, advancing professionalism and promoting community involvement. We are a positive force for responsible growth while protecting property rights and the privilege of home ownership. 3 out of every 5 jobs is touched in some manner by construction in our region. Growth generates jobs, maintains our property values, and builds and updates our infrastructure. Join us Friday mornings for the Construction Connection with the Wilmington Cape Fear Home Builders Association and the Big Talker FM.
Acoustic wave therapy at the Frank Institute is a revolutionary treatment for inflammation, issues of blood flow, and is a solution for the constant suffering of chronic pain. Through the localized transmission of sound waves, stem cells are stimulated to bring about restored blood flow, vascular regeneration, and the disbursement of pain receptors to affected areas. If you've been told that your issues could not be treated without surgery or prescription, give us a call. Non-invasive, non-surgical, and prescription-free. Acoustic wave therapy is only available at the Frank Institute. Call today, 910-679-8534, and ask about acoustic wave therapy.
I'm Rob Renz, Marine Corps veteran, entrepreneur, and local business owner. Join me and my buddies on Monday from 6 to 7 for Signal Fire Radio, where we discuss how to successfully transition from the military and become a signal fire in your community. That's Signal Fire Radio, Mondays from 6 to 7 p.m. on 106.7 The Big Talk.
A
Attention patriots, listen in to hear President Trump explain why Ted Budd is the right choice for United States Senate.
There's somebody that I think is very special, somebody that I've worked with, always been with me. This man's a great politician, but more importantly, he's somebody that loves the state of North Carolina. He loves the country. But this gentleman is going to be your next senator. He's going to be somebody that you're going to be so proud of. He will fight like hell. He will fight like nobody fights. And a lot of you don't know him that well, but you're going to know him. Ted Budd.
I am giving him my complete and total endorsement. We're going to work with him. We're going to campaign with him. You can't pick people that have already lost 2 races. You can't pick people that have already lost 2 races and do not stand for our values. So I'm going with Congressman Ted Budd, complete and total endorsement.
I'm Ted Budd, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Ted Budd for Senate. See the video at tedbudd.com.
Here's 1 minute of tree knowledge in 30 seconds with K.O. Davis.
It's important that you have somebody, a trained professional, to trim your trees. There are these guys out there that just hack trees, and that's the worst thing in the world that you can do. Don't let somebody hat rack your trees. That's a tree term for hat rack. You know how they just cut a tree and it looks like it's just got like a hat rack? These guys just go up and just cut the trees off, and they don't cut it back to the proper spot. Call us, because we care about your trees.
Visit KO's coasttocoasttree.com.
Don't let some yahoo hat rack your trees.
All right, if you'd like to call in, 910-299-7535. You got to love the trolls out there. And expressing the inconveniences that we've experienced over the last couple of days. That we've been told basically, suck it up, go to another store and deal with it. For the fact that we couldn't find gas at the Petro station back on Thursday. Couldn't find juice boxes for the kids on Saturday at the grocery store we frequent. Then it was, buddy at the retail store went to go buy a pair of shorts. No brands with sizes between 32 and 40-inch waists. Sounds like, it seems to me, last night, wife goes to the pet store. The brand of cat litter that we typically purchase, not in stock. You live here, you can go anywhere and get whatever you want. Well, when are you going to wake the hell up? I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg. From, what stories in the Washington Post, for instance, are highlighting the fact that the global supply chain has been disrupted, and we're going to be experiencing these sorts of shortages for quite some time, in fact. With factories shutting down once again in other parts of the world, as you begin your back-to-school shopping, well, guess what? You're going to be seeing empty shelves that U.S. retailers are going to be dealing with as you begin getting your kids' supplies for the upcoming school year. The Washington Post, of all places, has a very detailed article that we'll be working through over the next couple of days, showcasing the fact that, from the other side of the world all the way to your front doorstep, there are backlogs across the board, and they are going to get a lot worse before we start to see some relief, particularly because many countries are reverting back to lockdowns, shutting down factories, and once again disrupting, things that you really never even thought of living in this country, particularly over the last, in my lifetime. Now, for some who grew up way back when, had to deal with the inflation and the shortages of fuel and the era of Jimmy Carter, you have a little, a little bit of a memory of what life was like back then and some of the uncertainty. For all intents and purposes, those, including myself, who were brought up in a time where, everything was right at the tip of your finger when it comes to consumer goods, the vast variety of different things that you're able to purchase, at the different retail stores, the grocery stores, not necessarily used to this sort of stuff. We got a little taste of it, a couple of weeks back when we dealt with a few days of fuel shortages. And I guess, to an extent, you live in Hurricane Alley, you know what life is like in an emergency sort of situation. But this is like something that no one has seen in the grand scheme of things. When we talk about, the manufacturing plants that have been shut down, how that then disrupts the supply chain when it comes to, the massive cargo ships that are, in transit right now as we speak, that will end up at a port near where you live. And then the difficulty it's been to get a local driver to haul away those goods from those ports. And when there are delays with the trucking and the rail, how that backs up then the ships that are on their way with the different and various goods that you typically buy. And, it goes on and on and on. We saw this at the very beginning of the pandemic with certain prescription medicines manufactured in other places around the world, and how, people were having a difficult time getting their blood pressure medicine or their, medicine to keep their cholesterol in check, or many of the other things that we've taken for granted for far too long. And then in many cases, our politicians have decided to ship off when it comes to the manufacturing and production of these goods to, adversaries in some instances, and in others, all around the world, and how difficult it is when there is some congestion and there are some shortages, how, these temporary headaches and inconveniences turn into, normal everyday life. So some may feel that I'm being a little dramatic and highlighting the fact that over the last 5 days, I've pinpointed specific things that I purchase on a regular basis that are not available, like gas. Yeah, okay, I could have went across, and I did go a little further down the street to fill up the tank than the petrol station I typically go to closest to my house in proximity. All right, minor inconvenience that I then need to jump in the car and head over to the other grocery store to get the juice for the kids, or then jump in the car and go to the other pet store to get my cat litter, or have to go to another retail store rather than going to Amazon, which I've never done before. Never have ever purchased something from the website Amazon.com. Can't say the same about the rest of my family, but I know myself, I don't think I've ever been to the website Amazon.com, let alone made a purchase there. Going to buy some clothes at the retail store. Can't find any that fit me. And it almost seems like they're slowly but surely eliminating, us folks that make this place a thriving country, a stable, working middle class. But maybe that's just me in what I'm observing. To the trolls out there, they feel I'm being a little too dramatic in highlighting these things as part of my ongoing 86 list that I've put together on social media. Oh, and now, report here this morning from FoxNews.com. Put it on the 86 list. American Airlines reportedly warning of jet fuel shortages nationwide and asking their pilots to conserve fuel when possible. How is this not worthy of your attention? Maybe we should ask the trolls out there that post things on social media and then go hiding behind their keyboards when we provide evidence that shows, maybe this is a little bit more than an inconvenience. Baffling out there that folks feel we're moving in the right direction as far as our country and this world goes. Portions of our program presented to you by our friend at Southern Comfort Heating and Air, our guy Bruce, local, independently owned, family-run business, on the spot, 24/7 emergency service at affordable prices. Southern Comfort Heating and Air at 910-524-7609. 910-524-7609. Their services are always honest and affordable with long-lasting results you can count on. Our friends at Southern Comfort Heating and Air. Learn more about their preventative maintenance programs, their service and repair at GoSouthernComfort.com. That's GoSouthernComfort.com. 910-524-7609.
Hello, I'm Jeff Rivenbark with WWY News. The congressional investigation into the January 6th Capitol Hill attack gets underway today. The first public testimony will come from 4 police officers who were on the scene that day. Republican leaders have called for a boycott of the proceedings, but at least 2 GOP lawmakers have agreed to take part. Now to the latest on COVID-19. North Carolina, like many other states across the country, is seeing an uptick in COVID-19 cases. On Saturday, the number of single-day new cases surpassed 2,000, the highest since April 30th. More than 1,400 new cases were reported yesterday. 60% of the adult population of North Carolina has had at least 1 dose of the vaccine, and 57% are fully vaccinated. The Department of Health and Human Services also updating its county alert map. In the Cape Fear region, Brunswick County slipping from the green tier to the yellow tier, indicating a significant impact by the virus. New Hanover County doing the best of the 5 local counties with only moderate impact. Pender seeing substantial impact. Marine Corps Air Station at Cherry Point broke ground on the first of several military construction projects yesterday. Hurricane Florence was responsible for $450 million in damage to the station and its outlying fields. Then President Donald Trump and Governor Roy Cooper visited in September of 2018. The new construction is part of the $149 million Hurricane Florence recovery package. The headquarters facility is estimated to be complete by spring of 2023. And if you've ever wanted to bring your dog to an Azalea Festival event, now is your chance. The Azalea Festival, in partnership with Paws for People, are hosting the 2nd annual Paws on Parade Saturday. It's from 5 to 9 p.m. at the Greenfield Lake Amphitheater. There will be live music, a puppy kissing booth, and professional dog portraits. For more on these stories, head over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Jeff Rivenbark. Have a great day.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. We are going to see some changes as we go throughout the day today. A better chance for some scattered showers in store for us, although we are going to see a good deal of dry time. Temperatures will be jumping back up into the upper 80s, low 90s. Inland of the coast, coastal communities will top off in the middle 80s once again. But as we head into the overnight hours tonight, a few showers will stick around with mostly cloudy skies, and our temperatures do stay mild, dropping down to the middle 70s. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by 2 Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to 2menandatruck.com. 2menandatruck.com.
We don't need no education.
Well, they're counting on that, given the fact that 70% of our kids are not proficient in reading, writing, and math at grade level. They're counting on the fact that you have no education and are willing to be in a classroom where your thought is controlled, and if you go outside the line, well, you're painted as this, that, or the other. Very easy to see, and heck, right from the bully pulpit, we continue to hear just falsehoods on a day-to-day basis as far as where our country is at, where it's headed, and that if only we give government more money and more influence, will your life turn out better? Because they can predict outcomes for hundreds of millions of people from sea to shining sea. Yeah, good luck with that. Just trying to figure out how anyone could watch our politicians, particularly in Washington, on a day-to-day basis and say, yeah, more government is the way to go. The CEO of an organization known as Carnivore Traders, his name is Dutch Masters, and he is with us here this morning because over the last couple of weeks, you've heard, Grandpa Joe on his tour throughout America trying to convince us that spending more money will make inflation go away. It has nothing to do with supply chain shortages in labor and the inability to get consumer goods to the shelves of retail stores. Nothing to do with any of those sorts of things, or shutting down the world for the better part of the year and thinking just flipping the switch will change everything for us with millions unemployed, millions still collecting the extra goodies the government has provided inside those unemployment benefits, but somehow, some way, maybe another $3, $4, $5, $6 trillion will help it all make better. I mean, Dutch, doesn't it sound all gravy here this morning? Just let's spend some more.
Good morning. Why not, right?
I mean, it is it's sickening to hear these people speak and feel that they have our best intentions in mind.
Well, I think one of the things that's coming up these days, first of all, we have Jerome Powell at the Fed, and I'm a big Fed critic, but I have to say he's really right now the only voice of reason that we have around, and his term is coming up and expiring soon. And, our fear is a little bit that he'll be replaced because he was a Trump appointment, and he'll be replaced by one of these modern monetary theory school of thought individuals by the Biden administration. This may be, even more spend coming our way.
Well, with that said, we get all of these reports that the commander-in-chief touts. Listen, look at this story right here. My multi-trillion-dollar plan will reduce inflation, and he has to, say it 3 times to make sure that everyone in the room heard it. So why is it that we've got some analysts out there telling us that more government spending, more printing of the dollar will lead to a better cost of living and way of life for us?
Yeah, I don't. We don't quite understand it, but I'll tell you the debasement of the dollar here is really evident in, say, for example, the price of houses and the price of other things. I mean, it's not that the value of your home is going up; it's the value of your home appears to be going up only because it's going to take more dollars to buy the same thing.
Dutch Masters is CEO of Carnivore Traders, and that's just the housing market. Let's let alone talk about everyday purchases like things at the grocery store that you've been paying more for over the past year, and we could see that going up another 10 to 14%. Some are predicting by just this fall.
Well, when you think about, we're carnivores, right? So we eat a lot of meat, and the price of meat is already. If you want quality meat, it's going to be extremely expensive, right now. And yesterday, the meat people came out and said, "Look, this is going to double." That's shocking.
And when the overall mindset is, let's just turn it over to government, and I think they've done a great job. As they said, we don't need education. Let's just listen to the government. We're comfortable. We've got our Netflix. We've got our Grubhub. We can order, and they can bring it to our door. Why are we even paying attention to this sort of stuff? Well, because at the end of the day, this sort of comfortable living could be very short-lived. If we continue down this track that we're heading.
Yeah, we think that I think the most valuable thing that we've put out recently is that, look, you really have a choice right now. This inflationary environment that we're in, and it's going to accelerate or continue, it gives you a choice. You really have a choice to do one of 2 things. One is you can sit on the sidelines and you can watch assets inflate, or you can actually get into the inflating assets in some way, shape, or form. If you are sitting on the sidelines, you will be left behind. And so there is going to be a chasm between the haves and the have-nots that continues to widen. It'll be those who have assets that inflate and those who don't. So really the wage earner who does not have assets that inflate in value is going to be left behind. And the person who does have assets, and that includes, whether it's real estate or whether it's, assets in the stock market, those are the kinds of things that you have to make a choice of where you're going to go.
Well, with that said, when we talk about investing and, putting together a sort of a portfolio, isn't this, kind of the grand scheme, though, is to eliminate that stable working middle class, to divide us between have and have-nots? Isn't it that stable working middle class that makes this country thrive?
We don't like the divisions that are happening everywhere. In fact, 2 days ago, we were writing in our market wrap-up that, the vaccine, they're using that as a way to divide people. Everything that is, it just seems that, and frankly, we're exhausted by it. we're somewhat depressed by it and exhausted by it. That they're just wearing us out with the ways that they're coming up to divide people. I mean, I don't want to sound like, a 1968 hippie, but my mother was one, and but I can tell you that it would be much nicer, I think, a world if we were a little more, loving towards one another and helped one another, and instead of having these people trying to divide us all the time.
Well, and those who are
neighbor helping,
yeah, and those,
neighbor helping neighbor would be, kind of a nice thing instead of neighbor yelling at neighbor for not wearing a mask or something,
Well, and they do a pretty good job of stoking those fears and that division and pouring fuel on the fire. No, the leaders, the so-called leaders of our country, those who've got the bullhorn and the megahorn out there, pouring fuel on this fire of divisiveness. And now, when people are kind of at wit's end, they continue with some of these tactics rather than try and bring people together.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that we had an opportunity with Obama to actually bring people together, and instead of doing so, it started to really accelerate the divisions and driving a wedge between people at that point, and it's just continued and gotten to kind of a fever pitch. I mean, he just went back to what he knew, which was, the methods of divide and conquer and stoke the fires and get people at each other's throats, and then run his policies, and it's just gotten to a fever pitch now.
All right, I know that those who are investing and in the market are always trying to predict, what's ahead. Well, when it comes to the financial markets, I mean, you look at the numbers and where they're closing day after day, record high. Seems like, those in the market make pretty good chunk of change off a Democrat administration as they do with the Republicans, maybe even more so when a Democrat is in office. Why does it feel that way?
Well, it's kind of interesting. We have an interesting take on how we approach the market. It doesn't really matter to us what administration is in office, because our primary job is, regardless of who's there, we need to make money and extract money from the market. So an interesting thing for listeners to think about is, it doesn't matter whether you agree with the policies or what the beliefs are. What matters is that what tens of millions of people are going to buy into and what they're going to do and their behaviors. So I love to give the example of the fact that people believe that by buying an electric vehicle, they can save the planet. Now, it happens to not be true. The facts are that there's no better carbon footprint for an electric vehicle than there is for my Ford F-150. But I don't have to believe the same things that they believe. I just have to know what they believe and how they're going to act. And if they're going to buy 25 million Teslas, then I just need to get in front of that and make money from it. So it doesn't matter whether what they're doing is, irrational or stupid or idiotic. I just need to be able to make money from it in the market. And that's, I think, what we approach things is say, okay, what do they like and what do they not like? They think they can save the planet. They hate cows. And so, fake meat, for example, you see these hamburgers that are plant-based and everything's plant-based. There are companies that you can buy in the stock market that make those things. So
Dutch Masters is with us as the CEO of Carnivore Traders. Dutch, before I let you go, kind of how'd you get into the market as a profession, and as someone who goes about your ways of trading, maybe a little bit different than what we've seen traditionally, across investors in our country?
Yeah, well, I've been in this since I was 20 years old, and always enjoyed the stock market and the challenge of it. I used to play professional baseball when I was young, and what I liked about baseball was every day, is a new day, and every day, if you struck out 4 times and were a bum, the next day you could wake up and get 4 hits and be a hero. And the stock market gives me that exact same feeling. So at a young age, I got into it and worked at all the major firms. And carnivore trading is really kind of a conglomeration of all the guys that I worked with and plugged into on Wall Street over decades, and all the traders that I hired and trained and who became, the leaders that are there today. So that's how we got into it, and that's what we're doing today.
Dutch, how can people learn more about your business and what you do?
CarnivoreTrading.com, and there is a 14-day free trial. We don't ask for people's money. We don't take your money. We just show you what it is that we're doing every day live, and you get the trades that we're making, and at the end of the day you get our world famous market wrap, and you get to see sort of what we're thinking and what we're seeing. And as I said, there's a 14-day free trial, and there's no obligation. You can look at it and see whether it's for you or not. And we've been growing so fast. We have now thousands and thousands of carnivores all over the world. So it's pretty exciting. CarnivoreTrading.com is our site.
Well, Dutch, we wish you well in your future endeavors. And again, just kind of baffling to me that people are won over by the idea that more government spending and more government influence will end up working out best for the masses, the hundreds of millions of people in our country. It's kind of baffling to me that argument holds any water in this conversation that we're having today, given what we've seen in the past year.
That's right. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
And you do as well. It's Dutch Masters. Thanks again from Carnivore Trading, CEO of a very successful investment firm. Learn more about them on their website as we round out our broadcast here this morning at 9 minutes until the top of the hour. Your calls between now and then at 910-299-7535.
Institute, and I want to tell you about our IV vitamin, infusion, and hydration therapies. These IVs are the most effective treatment for vitamin and nutrition deficiencies available, and with our wide range of offering, your treatment can be tailored to your specific needs. Whether you struggle with hydration or nutritional deficiency, injury recovery, low energy, please feel free to check out our IV infusions today. Schedule an appointment at 910-679-8534 or check out all our treatment services at www.frankinstitute.com.
Hey everyone, Ben Hawkins here with Cross Country Mortgage. Rates are still at historic lows, and there has never been a better time to purchase your dream home or refinance your existing. With over 300 loan products including conventional, FHA, VA, USDA, renovation, and jumbo, we are certain we have the right loan product for you and your family. Call me today to be pre-qualified to make the offer on your next dream home. 910-352-3373 or visit my website at lendwithben.com.
When your AC stops, don't despair. Just go.
Go where? The South Pole?
Go Southern Comfort Heating and Air. For preventive maintenance, service, and repair, go there.
Where?
Southern Comfort Heating and Air.
Are they fair?
Fair and square. Low prices, speedy service, and technicians who care. When your AC stops, don't stare. Go there.
Is there a website you can share?
Go SouthernComfort.com. If you go anywhere else, beware.
I swear.
Call 910-524-7609.
If you're anywhere near Oak Island, come check out Seaside Jewelers at 8801 East Oak Island Drive. They're on Oak Island. You're going to find the latest in Oak Island lighthouses, nautical charms, pendants. You're going to find bracelet, turtle charms, anything in the jewelry genre you need, you can get there. And if they don't have it, they'll find a way to get it for you. Come check out Seaside Jewelers at 8801 East Oak Island Drive. And if you tell them you heard it on the Big Talker FM, an extra 10% off your purchase, but only at Seaside Jewelers, 8801 East Oak Island Drive. The lowest prices in town. Come check us out today.
Attention patriots, listen in to hear President Trump explain why Ted Budd is the right choice for United States Senate.
There's somebody that I think is very special, somebody that I've worked with, always been with me. This man's a great politician, but more importantly, he's somebody that loves the state of North Carolina. He loves the country. But this gentleman is going to be your next senator. He's going to be somebody that you're going to be so proud of. He will fight like hell. He will fight like nobody fights. And a lot of you don't know him that well, but you're going to know him. Ted Budd.
I am giving him my complete and total endorsement. We're going to work with him. We're going to campaign with him. You can't pick people that have already lost 2 races. You can't pick people that have already lost 2 races and do not stand for our values. So I'm going with Congressman Ted Budd, complete and total endorsement.
I'm Ted Budd, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Ted Budd for Senate. See the video at tedbudd.com.
Here, Thom Goolsby on the Joe Catenacci Show.
People with common sense know that the entire theory of socialism is one big lie.
The Big Talker 106.7 FM.
All right, as we round out the broadcast here on this Tuesday, big thanks to Governor Pat McCrory for joining us earlier in the program. Again, you go to my website at joecats.com, joecats.com, just a little after the top of the hour, and you can listen to his conversation with us earlier today. Of course, we talked about some of the accomplishments the governor was able to achieve during his time as the top executive in our state, kind of spearheading this North Carolina comeback, where the old North State was at prior to his election and sweeping Republicans into the General Assembly as a supermajority, now a majority, where we've moved since then. And then I think, I asked a question that a lot of our listeners wanted to be asked, as far as some who feel in the Republican Party that maybe the governor is a little wish-washy when it comes to certain conservative ideals and values. Essentially, some in these camps believe he's sort of a rhino, I guess, as it were. And, he had a very strong response to that. And again, encourage you to go to our website, joecats.com, joecats.com, and listen to it for yourself. Here locally, WWAYTV3.com with a story out this morning in regards to the double homicide in Middle Sound in New Hanover County over the weekend. They've revealed the 911 call that details the double homicide that occurred in a very quiet neighborhood. We kind of gave thoughts on that over the last couple of days. Still stand by many of those instincts that led us to some of the commentary that we've given. Still no details on that third shooting victim. Young woman, not sure of her identity, yet not sure of her condition at this point. A few other details have been released at this hour as we continue to follow that story very closely. Molson Coors comes out with a statement yesterday reiterating their support for the mission of True Colors Brewing. Of course, working with validated gang members, you are, could be potentially in the crosshairs. This not the first, but the second, maybe even the third time. If correct me if I'm wrong, but no doubt the second documented time where a man ended up shot at one of the homes owned by the True Colors founders. At this point, no new info on the investigation or the third person shot as part of that double homicide. Her identity unknown, her condition unknown at this time. Across the river, in regards to the upcoming academic year, Brunswick County Schools gauging parents when it comes to your thoughts in an effort to provide feedback through a survey that they will take into consideration when they make a decision about upcoming protocols for the academic year, which begins in a couple of weeks. Their survey is on their Brunswick County Schools website. That'll round out our broadcast for this morning. Looking forward to doing all again tomorrow at 7 a.m. right here on the Big Talker FM. Stay safe out there. And tomorrow, Richard Battle from the great state of Texas will be with us, as he always is on Wednesdays. Also looking forward to conversations with members of the Ramsey personality team, the Dave Ramsey Show, going to be joining us tomorrow, along with Congressman David Rouser. Talk to you tomorrow. Stay safe out there.
Keeping Charlotte informed. The Big Talker 106.7 FM WFBT, Carolina Beach.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. Let the investigation begin. The Select Committee, impaneled by House Speaker Pelosi to investigate the U.S. Capitol riot, holding its first hearing. Committee Chair, Mississippi Democrat Benny Thompson, pledging a bipartisan examination of the events of January 6th.
There's no place for politics or partisanship in this investigation. Our only charge is to follow the facts where they lead us.
4 police officers who were in the midst of the violence at the Capitol are set to testify at today's hearing. Prior to the testimony, lawmakers have seen video of the attack that until now was not viewed publicly. California and New York City will both require all government workers to take the vaccine